Chapter 1169. Death Valley, Inner Valley. Boom! Countless lightning bolts gathered in the dark clouds, tens of thousands of kilometers away. After detecting the 9 elixir pills that had left the Danteon fire space, they condensed into a purple dragon and roared as they rushed out of the dark clouds. However, when the purple dragon that had left the dark clouds and detected the evil black gas in front of the long-armed ape's forehead, it seemed to have met a life and death enemy. It immediately stopped its body and roared anxiously at the dark clouds. As the purple dragon roared anxiously, the dark clouds within tens of thousands of kilometers began to churn. Roar! As the dark clouds churned violently, the roar of the divine dragon resounded throughout the southern region. After hearing the roar of the divine dragon, the black gas knew that it would not be able to break through the absolute defense formed by the long-armed ape in a short period of time. The black gas, which already had its own consciousness, immediately thought of escaping. Quickly leaving the long-armed ape's forehead, the black gas turned into a small black snake and planned to escape into the depths of the inner valley. However, at this moment, a huge dragon claw directly grabbed the small black snake. A very ear-piercing hiss came from the small black snake's mouth. Feeling the sharp pain in his divine soul, Yuhauran immediately mobilized the Rui Bell in his divine soul to form a defense that could isolate the hiss from the damage to his divine soul. Ignoring the hiss that could harm his divine soul, the purple dragon claw that grabbed the small black snake suddenly tightened its grip. There was no sound and no energy fluctuation. The black gas that even a second tribulation quasi-emperor could not resist completely turned into white smoke and disappeared behind the purple dragon claw. After successfully eliminating the evil black gas, the purple dragon claw formed by the divine thunder did not disappear immediately. Instead, it directly grabbed the long-armed ape that was recovering its strength with the help of the elixir pills. Looking at the purple dragon claw that could easily destroy the black gas and quickly grab the long-armed ape, Yuhauran knew that the thing that he was most worried about had happened. That was because the black gas had been fused for a long time, causing the divine thunder of the pill tribulation to mistake the long-armed ape as an evil existence and intended to destroy it together. Looking at the purple dragon claw that was rushing toward it, the long-armed ape was not frightened at all. Instead, it revealed a happy smile on its face. Just as the purple dragon claw was about to grab its head, the long-armed ape suddenly stretched out its furry ape paw and directly grabbed the purple dragon claw with both of its paws. Then it roared, "Get down here!" As the long-armed ape pulled forcefully with its palms, the dark clouds in the sky above the valley were torn in half. A purple divine dragon that had yet to fully materialize was directly pulled out of the space of dark clouds, and then heavily smashed into the hard ground of the inner valley. Little friend, this is the most essential energy of the pill tribulation lightning. Not only can it improve the grade of the body, the origin energy in the Danteon, the soul energy in the sea of consciousness, and the comprehension of the energy of the laws, it can also strengthen the foundation and improve one's potential. He stretched out his huge fist, and with 3 punches, the entire purple divine dragon was smashed into countless drops of purple lightning liquid. Then, the long-armed ape opened its bloody mouth and quickly absorbed the purple lightning liquid while reminding him through divine telekinesis. After hearing long-armed ape's reminder, Yuhauran did not hesitate at all. He bent his knees and sat down cross-legged, using his self-created heavenly mandate mantra and the star dome mantra taught by Thaling to improve his cultivation and the grade of his body. Boom! Accompanied by the continuous roars of breaking through to the next level, Yuhauran's cultivation quickly reached the early 9th level of the martial saint realm, and the grade of his body also reached the early 9th level of the martial saint realm. Although the self-created heavenly mandate mantra's absorption speed of the purple lightning liquid was more than 10 times that of the great mystery mantra, compared to the long-armed ape's absorption speed of the purple lightning liquid, it was not just a little bit slower. Therefore, after his cultivation and the grade of his body both reached the early 9th level of the martial saint realm, The purple lightning liquid formed after the purple divine dragon was completely absorbed by the long-armed ape, putting away the regret in his heart. Howard raised his head and looked at the 9 burning blood pills floating in the air with an expression of disbelief. The incomplete nourishment process made him think that the 9 pills would eventually be destroyed by the lightning strike caused by the pill tribulation. However, the final result was beyond his expectations. After withstanding the lightning tribulation, not only were the 9 burning blood pills not destroyed, but they were also refined into 9 pills. Reaching out his hand to call back the 9 burning blood pills floating in the air, Howard carefully observed them for a while and found that although the 9 burning blood pills were refined successfully, the energy contained within was only 2/3 of the original grade of the burning blood pills. It seemed that the purple divine dragon that the long-armed ape had torn down earlier had probably consumed close to 90% of the energy of the pill tribulation. This led to the 9 pills successfully passing through the pill tribulation, but in the end, only the imperfect burning blood pills were formed. To Howard, who had always pursued perfection, the imperfect 9 burning blood pills were a disgrace in his alchemy history. How could he wash away this disgrace? His choice was very simple and crude, and that was to directly crush the 9 burning blood pills. Looking at the 9 burning blood pills that had been crushed into powder, whether it was the long-armed ape that had recovered its strength with the help of the purple lightning liquid, or Thowling that had finally heaved a sigh of relief in his sea of consciousness, their eyes were filled with deep reluctance. Even if it was an imperfect burning blood pill, it could still help exotic beasts below the Emperor realm to directly erupt with the strength of an entire realm. Whether it was using it to rope in powerful exotic beasts, or entrusting it to a merchant guild for auction, there would be unimaginable gains. Despite their reluctance, Thowling and the long-armed ape did not complain about Howard's impulsiveness, nor did they express any opinions. Using the purple lightning liquid that contained special energy, the long-armed ape used less than 20 minutes to recover 70% of its strength, enough for it to continue possessing the strength of the Death Valley's overlord. As such, the long-armed ape that had finished recovering its strength slowly walked in front of Howard, clenched its left hand into a fist, and punched its chest, then bowed and thanked him. Little friend, I, the long-armed ape, will never forget your kindness in saving my life in the face of danger. If you have any errands in the future, just say the word, and I, the long-armed ape, will definitely do my best. Senior long-armed ape, you don't have to be so courteous. Lending a hand is what this junior should do. After hurriedly exchanging pleasantries, Howard took out a purple gold invitation card from his storage ring and handed it to the long-armed ape with a smile on his face. Senior long-armed ape, this junior will be holding a wedding in Xianyang City of the Emperor Qin's empire in 13 days. I hope you can attend as my family and friend. Hearing Howard's invitation, the long-armed ape's heart immediately felt a trace of warmth. The long-armed ape extended its furry hand and took the purple gold invitation card, patting its chest as it promised. Chapter 1170. Death Valley, Inner Valley. Thank you, Senior. Howard was pleasantly surprised when he heard that the long-armed ape had agreed to attend his wedding. In fact, he had personally invited the long-armed ape to attend the wedding not only to increase the number and quality of his guests, but also to use the long-armed ape's strength to shock some people with ulterior motives and ensure that the wedding would proceed smoothly. After all, marriage was different from engagement. There were some things that were not suitable for him to solve personally. You don't have to be so polite, young friend, the long-armed ape said with a smile after solemnly keeping the invitation card. You must be very tired after fighting against the black gas for half a month. I happen to have some things to deal with, so I'll take my leave first. The time to prepare for the wedding was very tight. Not only did he not have time to cultivate, but he also had to return to Xianyang City to refine pills at any time. Therefore, Howard, who had settled one of his worries, immediately clasped his fist and said goodbye. Okay, then I won't see you off. The long-armed ape nodded and did not ask him to stay. because it was an urgent need to recover to its peak strength and then go after the 9 snakes who dared to sneak up on it. However, when it saw that Howren did not leave the inner valley of Death Valley, but instead sped up into the depths of the inner valley, it could not help but ask with its divine thought, "Young friend, what are you going to do?" "Senior, according to what I know, there seems to be a rank 3 first-grade blue blood-darkening flower in the inner valley of Death Valley." Stopping, Howren did not hide his purpose of going deep into the inner valley and said truthfully, "And this blue blood-darkening flower is exactly what I need. Does it have 9 jade-green petals with a red in the center of each petal?" Hearing Howren mention the rank 3 first-grade blue blood-darkening flower, the long-armed ape thought carefully and then asked in an uncertain tone, "That's right." Howren quickly nodded and confirmed. After getting confirmation from Howren, the long-armed ape appeared in front of him and asked with a smile, "Young friend, do you know what the guardian beast of that spiritual flower is?" This, Howren didn't know how to answer long-armed ape's question. According to his experience in the inner valley of Death Valley in his previous life, the strange beast guarding the jade blood-darkening flower was only an early 7th grade martial saint profound python with the bloodline of an ancient divine beast, the snake transformation. But in this world that had been affected by the reverse energy of the demon god's ancient tomb, who knew just what boundary the profound python had reached. "Little friend, you're too reckless. It's very easy for you to fall into a fatal crisis." Seeing that Howren did not even know the guardian beast of the jasper blood-dark flower and dared to barge into the depths of the valley, the long-armed ape reminded him with a serious expression, "Senior, you're right." Without refuting long-armed ape's criticism, Howren accepted it humbly. "Little friend, the strange beast guarding the jade blood-darkening flower is a profound python with the bloodline of an ancient divine beast, the snake transformation. It's also one of the only 3 venerable realm beasts in the inner valley of Death Valley." Although he already knew that the profound python with the bloodline of an ancient divine beast, the snake transformation, would have an earth-shattering change in its grade and strength, he never thought that the profound python would become a peerless beast of the venerable realm. Fortunately, with the help of Thaling, the profound python was not in too much danger. Therefore, Howren was only shocked when he first heard the news. He quickly calmed down and thanked long-armed ape with cupped fists. "Thank you for your reminder, Senior." Although Howren's actions were a little reckless, the fact that he could calm down so quickly showed that his state of mind was not bad. This made long-armed ape very satisfied. At the same time, he could not help but want to know the reason why he was looking for the jade blood-darkening flower. "Senior, this junior's fiancé possesses the profound soul fire. I wish to use the jade blood profound flower to raise the grade of the profound soul fire and assist her in advancing to the peak of the 9th grade martial saint realm in a short period of time, so as to obtain a good ranking in the hidden dragon rankings." Vaguely guessing the intentions of the long-armed ape, Howren did not hide anything and said, "I see." After hearing Howren's explanation, long-armed ape nodded to show that he understood. Then, it disappeared on the spot with a method that Howren could not understand. After only 20 seconds, long-armed ape reappeared on the spot with a jade blood-dark flower uprooted in his hand. "Senior, this..." Although he had already guessed the intention of long-armed ape, when he really took the jade blood-darkening flower, Howren was excited and a little embarrassed to reach out his hand to take it. Using demonic power to wrap the jade blood-darkening flower and send it directly to Howren, long-armed ape explained with a smile, "Little Xian has cultivated a total of 3 jade blood-darkening flowers these years. One is for him to use, one is for his dual cultivation partner, and the last one is for me. With my current cultivation and strength, this jade blood-darkening flower is not very useful anymore. Today, I will give it to you as a gift. Senior, thank you for your gift." After taking out a jade box made of green jade from his storage ring and putting the soil into the box, Howren cupped his fists and thanked him. After waving his hand to tell Howren not to be so polite, Long-armed ape thought that a jade blood-darkening flower was not enough to compensate for saving his life. He immediately stretched out his furry hand and tore the space in front of him. Then, countless fourth grade and third grade spiritual stones, spiritual herbs, spiritual flowers, spiritual medicine, and sealed spiritual veins, and thousands of precious treasures floated out from the torn space. Little Xian, let's not talk about saving your life for now. Letting go of the torn space, long-armed ape said with a smile. Since you have invited me to your wedding, as your senior, I should give you some gifts. Saying this, long-armed ape pointed at the thousands of treasures floating in the air and smiled. Pick anything you like. As long as you like it, take it all. Just as Yu Haoran was about to decline the gift, he unexpectedly saw a beautiful flower in the shape of a butterfly among the thousands of treasures floating in the air. Using his spiritual sense to bring the flower to himself, Yu Haoran carefully observed it. Immediately, a look of surprise appeared on his face. Senior, this is a 5th grade level 9 butterfly flower. I will be thick-skinned and accept it. Yu Haoran happily requested as he reached out to pinch the flower. Little Xian, I have already said that as long as you like it, you can choose any of these treasures. In response to Yu Haoran's request, long-armed ape waved his hand and said. In response, Yu Haoran smiled and nodded. Then, he lifted his head and continued to observe the thousands of treasures floating in the air. Chapter 1171. Death Valley, Inner Valley. Similarly, he used his divine sense to bring the bead that emitted the aura of water and fire to him. However, before he could really examine it, the yin-yang heavenly fire origin that had been dormant above his dantian suddenly began to riot. Hurriedly using his divine sense to calm the riot of the yin-yang heavenly fire origin, Yu Haoran carefully observed the bead floating in front of him. Then, a look of surprise emerged in his heart. This was because the bead emitting the aura of water and fire contained a huge amount of pure water and fire attribute flame energy. The 5 elements restrained each other, but they also promoted each other. If the yin-yang heavenly fire origin absorbed the 2 different types of flames in this bead, then the yin-yang heavenly fire origin would be able to level up. He would also be able to use the yin-yang heavenly fire origin to perform a secret martial skill with enough power to injure a peerless expert of the martial saint realm. Senior, this junior will accept this bead. Using the special wooden box to shield the aura of the flames and prevent the yin-yang heavenly fire origin from becoming restless, Yu Haoran still used a negotiating tone. In response, the long-armed ape only smiled and did not say anything more. Just as Yu Haoran put away the wooden box containing the bead, Thowling reminded him in his knowledge, see, Yu Haoran, the spirit fruit in the shape of a fat man in the far west. Using his divine sense to bring the spirit fruit in front of him, an aura that could instantly calm his mind was emitted from the spirit fruit that was shaped like a fat man. Thowling, what is this? Reaching out to hold the spirit fruit, Yu Haoran asked. Buddha heart fruit, a top spirit fruit known as one of the 10 great treasures of the martial path of Buddhism during the Middle Ages. It can assist a Buddhist cultivator's physical body to reach the martial saint realm, which is to become an arhat. Thowling's eyes revealed a look of reminiscence as he spoke in a complicated tone. Thowling, what effect does the Buddha heart fruit have on me? Yu Haoran was not interested in the arhat realm. He only wanted to know what benefits the Buddha heart fruit could bring him. Although it won't have any effect on you, it can help your master, Feng Qingyun, to raise his physical body to the brink of breaking through to the martial venerable realm in one fell swoop and completely unlock his fate with Buddhism, Thowling explained. Yu Haoran tightened his grip on the Buddha heart fruit as a complicated look flashed across his eyes. In the end, he let out a long sigh and placed the Buddha heart fruit into the wooden box he had taken out. Just as he was about to bid farewell with cupped fists, the Thowling in his sea of consciousness reminded him once again. Yu Haoran, do you see the 9 beads in the southeast corner? I see it. Yu Haoran raised his head to take a closer look and nodded. Bring it here, Thowling said. Thowling, as the saying goes, do not do things more than 3 times. In the face of Thowling's order, Yu Haoran did not immediately do as he was told. Instead, he patiently advised, "Although the long-armed ape is grateful that I saved his life and allowed us to choose these treasures, we still have to know our limits and not give him the impression that we are insatiable. After all, when the wedding is officially held, I still need the long-armed ape to help control the situation and prevent anyone from ruining the wedding ceremony." In the face of Yu Haoran's persuasion, Thowling only smiled and said one sentence, which made him immediately change his mind. Then, he used his divine thought to store the 9 beads into the victor. "Yu Haoran, I can use these 9 beads to refine a set of attack and defense that is not inferior to a martial venerable realm magic weapon in terms of power. Yu Haoran, if there is nothing too important during this period of time, try not to disturb me. This is because I plan to use the victor's ability to accelerate time and try to refine these 9 beads into a real martial venerable realm magic weapon." After carefully observing the quality of the 9 beads, Thowling was pleasantly surprised and had an even bolder idea in his heart. "Got it," Yu Haoran immediately replied. Then, he smiled and gestured to the long-armed ape. "Senior, I have finished my selection. You can keep these treasures." Seeing that Yu Haoran had only picked 4 treasures, the long-armed ape could not help but frown and suggest, "My young friend, among the remaining treasures, there are many treasures whose quality and level are far superior to the 4 treasures that you have just picked. Why don't you pick a few more?" "Senior, I still have to continue working on the wedding, so I will take my leave for now." Yu Haoran shook his head and gestured with his fists clasped together. "In that case, I will not say anything more." Nodding his head, the long-armed ape waved his hand and kept the 1,000 treasures floating in mid-air, then gave a promise. "My young friend, I will attend your wedding on time. Senior, I will take my leave." After nodding his head, Yu Haoran turned around and left the inner valley. He then went straight to the outer valley of Death Valley. Heaven's will is in chaos. The Honorable Realm and Emperor Realm experts are about to appear. The God State experts who are hidden in the void will descend soon too. It seems that I, Old Ape, will have to leave Death Valley too. Looking at Yu Haoran, who was leaving the inner valley quickly, the long-armed ape's eyes revealed a trace of solemnity as he muttered to himself. Heart Moon Sect, one of the third-rate sects affiliated to the 100 Chi Gate. With the internal strife for the 100 Chi Gate for close to 100 years, the overall strength of the sect was severely damaged. This caused the affiliated sects and families to be disloyal. The Heart Moon Sect was the sect that wanted to break away from the control of the 100 Chi Gate the most. They were the sect that sought to be independent. According to the geographical location, the Heart Moon Sect's base that was closer to the north would allow them to obtain more spiritual energy of heaven and earth. At the same time, with 2 outstanding sect leaders, the overall strength of the Heart Moon Sect had been steadily increasing. They were about to surpass the 100 Chi Gate. If not for Yu Haoran's appearance and Feng Qingyun's martial sage realm cultivation, the Heart Moon Sect that had accumulated strength to the peak would have declared independence long ago. However, after Yu Haoran left the 100 Chi Gate and did not return for more than a year, the eldest senior brother of the Qingyun Peak, Chu Zhongyu, took the initiative to step down from the position of sect leader. Feng Qingyun even left the sect to travel. This caused the Heart Moon Sect's barely suppressed ambition to become independent to be ignited again. Stop right there. Looking at the young man in a dark blue robe who appeared in front of the mountain gate with a faint smile on his face, the Heart Moon Sect disciple who was in charge of guarding the mountain gate shouted loudly, "Please inform Zhang Ro that an old friend has come to visit." Facing the Heart Moon Sect disciple's stern reprimand, the young man in blue did not care at all. Another lecturer who does not know the immensity of heaven and earth and covets senior sister Zhang's beauty. After hearing the purpose of the young man in blue's visit to the Heart Moon Sect, the disciple who had shouted earlier said to the junior brother behind him with a face of disdain, "Senior sister Zhang is already eldest senior brother's woman. Whoever dares to have any ideas about senior sister Zhang will be eldest senior brother's enemy." While nodding his head in agreement with his senior martial brother's speculation, his junior martial brother, who was only a 5th-grade martial warrior, took out an ordinary iron sword and said with a sinister smile. Chapter 1172. Heart Moon Sect, in front of the mountain gate. Looking at the 3 Heart Moon Sect disciples who took out ordinary swords, the young man in blue could not help but frown and remind them with a displeased expression. I don't have any ill intentions. I just want to catch up with junior sister Zhang Rou. Boy, there's only one person who can catch up with senior sister Zhang. That is the only son of the Heart Moon Sect's sect master, our eldest senior brother, Chang Haohua. The Heart Moon Sect disciple who took out an ordinary sword first showed his loyalty while waving his sword at the young man in blue. Looking at the Heart Moon Sect disciple whose sword technique was full of flaws, a cold light flashed in the eyes of the young man in blue. He slowly stretched out the fingers of his left hand and directly clamped the body of the long sword. Then, with a slight force, the long sword was broken into 2. Senior brothers, the opponent is very strong. Let's attack together. With just the strength of his fingers, he could easily break the long sword that contained the yuan power of a martial warrior. The Heart Moon Sect disciple who took the lead to attack could not help but change his expression. He then called out to the 2 senior brothers behind him. Seeing that the Heart Moon Sect disciple was still acting recklessly, the young man in blue, who had obviously lost his patience, glared fiercely at the 3 Heart Moon Sect disciples. The Heart Moon Sect disciple whose mind was instantly injured spat out blood and fell to the ground. Then, the young man in blue directly released a powerful divine thought and swept through the entire mountain gate of the Heart Moon Sect. When he saw that Zhang Rou, who he was looking for, was lying happily in the arms of a handsome young man with a somewhat feminine temperament, he could not help but frown. After quickly retracting his divine thought, the young man in blue shouted at the mountain gate of the Heart Moon Sect, "Zhang Rou, come out and see me." The roar was deafening, and everyone in the Heart Moon Sect could hear it clearly. Who is being presumptuous in front of my Heart Moon Sect? Along with the questioning voice, a middle-aged, beautiful woman whose cultivation had reached the peak of the 9th grade martial royal realm quickly appeared in front of the young man in blue. You are? The young man in blue in front of her looked a little familiar, but she could not remember at the moment. The middle-aged, beautiful woman could not help but ask. In the face of the middle-aged, beautiful woman's questioning, the young man in blue looked at her coldly. Just like the 3 Heart Moon Sect disciples earlier, the middle-aged, beautiful woman who groaned in pain had a trace of blood at the corner of her mouth, and her face instantly turned pale. None of you are allowed to act rashly. Turning her head, the beautiful middle-aged woman sternly ordered the few elders who were rushing over. Although the other party did not reveal his identity, just a cold gaze was enough to directly injure his mind. It was enough to show that the blue-clothed young man in front of him was an expert that he absolutely could not provoke. Zhang Rou, I'm counting to 3. If you, the young of the Moon Sect, the Moon Sect disciple of the Heart Moon Sect. After retracting his cold gaze, the blue-robed young man waited in front of the mountain gate for another 3 minutes. When he realized that Zhang Rou still hadn't appeared, he used his powerful divine sense to scan the area again. When he saw that Zhang Rou not only ignored his shout just now, but also did something improper with that young man in the courtyard, the corners of the blue-clothed young man's mouth curled up slightly. His voice was cold as he threatened. Not good, it's you, Howren. The roar mixed with telepathic thoughts finally woke up Zhang Rou, who had fallen into confusion. After feeling the threatening voice that was as cold as frost, Zhang Rou's boiling hot blood instantly cooled down. She then stretched out her hand and pushed away the young man who was pressing down on her body. There was a trace of panic in her expression as she said, "Senior, Yu Howren from the 100 Qi Gates, Qingyun Peak, is here. Sister Rou, don't worry." Although the young man felt unusually annoyed that he was forcefully interrupted, when he saw Zhang Rou's flustered expression, he still forcefully suppressed his anger and comforted her with a smile. Half a month ago, my father successfully broke through the martial saint realm and became one of the top experts in the Tianxian continent. Pulling Zhang Rou into his arms again, The young man patted her shoulder lightly and said with disdain, "Although Yu Haoran's reputation is very high, it comes more from his alchemy skills. His own cultivation and strength are definitely not very strong. He will definitely yield in front of my father's powerful strength. So, it won't be too late to meet him at the gate after we're done. Brother Hua, I miss you." After hearing the young man's comforting words, the panic in Zhang Rou's eyes disappeared. Then, she looked at the other party lovingly and shouted with a voice full of endless temptation, "Little vixen, I'm coming." The hot-blooded young man laughed wildly and suddenly pounced on her. 3, 2, 1. After counting down, the young man in blue could not help but sneer when he saw that Zhang Rou not only ignored his threat, but also continued to do the deed with the young man. Then, he quickly formed a seal with his 10 fingers. Then, together with his powerful divine thought, he directly used a secret technique that could change the scene. Form displacement. Accompanied by a soft shout, a courtyard that was originally located in the Heart Moon sect was directly moved to the front of the gate by the secret technique. Hao Hua. Looking at the two people who were doing the deed, the middle-aged, beautiful woman was shocked by the terrifying means of the young man in blue. She immediately shouted at the young man who was crawling on Zhang Rou. "Who dares to disturb me?" The independent courtyard was his personal space. Now, not only did someone barge in without permission, but they also dared to ruin his good deed. This made the young man who had already taken advantage of her immediately curse furiously. However, when he saw that the person who disturbed his good deed was actually the middle-aged, beautiful woman, the young man immediately shouted obediently, "Mother, don't you find it embarrassing? Hurry up and put on your clothes." Looking at the naked young man, the middle-aged, beautiful woman frowned and reprimanded him. While putting on his clothes in a panic, the young man looked around the situation. When he saw the elders standing behind the middle-aged, beautiful woman and the indifferent young man in blue, his face suddenly revealed a look of disbelief. Zhang Rou greets Yu Shixiao. Zhang Rou, who also noticed the crowd at the scene, put on her clothes in a panic and walked slowly to the young man in blue. She was trembling with fear as she greeted him. "You are Yu Haoran." When Chang Haohua, who quickly put on his clothes, heard Zhang Rou's address of the young man in blue, his shy expression was immediately replaced by contempt. His tone was even more arrogant as he asked. When the middle-aged, beautiful woman and the elders learned that the young man in blue in front of them was Yu Haoran, who was famous in the southern region, they could not help but change their expressions. Then, the middle-aged, beautiful woman gave a look to an elder who was at the peak of the third-grade martial king. The elder, who was reminded by the middle-aged, beautiful woman, immediately turned and entered the gate. Chapter 1173. Heart Moon Sect, in front of the mountain gate. Zhang Rou, I've already said that if you don't appear in front of me within the count of 3, then I will take back everything that I gave you. As if facing a stranger, Yu Haoran stretched out his hand and ordered forcefully, "Hand over the larva of the 9th heaven cloudy butterfly immediately." No. Facing Yu Haoran's forceful demand for the larva of the 9th heaven cloudy butterfly, Zhang Rou immediately shook her head and refused. At the same time, she retreated to Chang Haohua's side and said with a smile, "Yu Shixiao, you know that the 9-legged worm has already signed a beast pet contract with me in front of the Een Spring in the Blue Moon Secret Realm. Even if I want to hand it over, you can't take it away." The 9-legged worm was the larva of the sovereign beast, 9th heaven cloudy butterfly. When they heard Yu Haoran and Zhang Rou mention the 9-legged worm larva of the 9th heaven cloudy butterfly, the middle-aged, beautiful woman and Chang Haohua looked at each other and saw the greed in each other's eyes. Chang Haohua reached out and hugged Zhang Rou's waist, as if he was doing it for her. On the other hand, the middle-aged, beautiful woman secretly crushed a jade talisman and summoned a few good friends that she had made when she went out for training. "Zhang Rou, since I asked for the larva of the 9th heaven cloudy butterfly, then I have a way to remove the beast pet contract on the 9-legged worm." In the face of Zhang Rou's threat of using the beast pet contract to counter his threat, Yu Haoran said with a cold smile, "So, hand over the larva of the 9th heaven cloudy butterfly immediately. "You Howren, even if I don't hand over the nine-legged worm, what can you do to me?" With Chang Haohua's support, Zhang Ro immediately provoked him. Good, very good. Seeing Zhang Ro provoking him recklessly after having Chang Haohua's support, Yu Haoren's face was filled with anger as he repeatedly cheered and walked toward Zhang Ro and Chang Haohua. Attack together. Seeing that Yu Haoren was about to attack, the middle-aged, beautiful woman ordered the few martial emperor elders behind her. Then, she stood in front of Zhang Ro and Chang Haohua in a flash. The beautiful middle-aged woman who had taken out her natal sword asked coldly, "You Haoren, what are you trying to do? If you don't want to die, then get the hell out of here." Yu Haoren coldly looked at the beautiful middle-aged woman and berated her with a murderous aura. "What a joke. In front of my Heart Moon Sect's mountain gate, you asked me, the wife of the sect leader, to scram." Faced with Yu Haoren's merciless rebuke, the middle-aged beauty angrily questioned, "Yu Haoren, aren't you being too arrogant? Are you not putting our 100 Qi gate in your eyes? I've already given you a chance to live. Since you want to die, then don't blame me, Yu Haoren, for being merciless." Yu Haoren said with a calm expression. His murderous eyes were quickly replaced by emotionless ripples. Then he stretched out his left hand and directly grabbed the beautiful middle-aged woman's neck. Looking at the slowly reaching hand, a trace of disdain flashed in the beautiful middle-aged woman's eyes. She wanted to wave her natal sword in her hand and directly cut off the hand that was reaching out. She was horrified to find that she couldn't even raise her arm, let alone use her Yuan Qi and soul power. Therefore, she could only watch as Yu Haoren stretched out his hand and slowly pinched her neck. "Let go of my mother! Let go of my wife!" Just as Yu Haoren stretched out his hand to pinch the beautiful middle-aged woman's neck, the voices of Chang Haohua and a middle-aged man sounded in his ears. Turning his head to look at the middle-aged man who rushed over like lightning, Yu Haoren's emotionless eyes flashed with a trace of surprise, because he didn't expect that in the third-rate Heart Moon sect, there was actually an expert who had broken through to the early first-grade martial saint realm. It was no wonder that among all the third-rate sects affiliated to the 100 Qi Gate, the Heart Moon sect was the first to not listen to the orders and delay the tribute of resources. It turned out that the top experts and overall strength they had were not inferior to the 100 Qi Gate at all. "You want me to let go?" After slowly lifting the beautiful middle-aged woman, Yu Haoren asked with a cold smile, "Yu Haoren, if you let go of my wife now and kneel down to apologize on account of the relationship between the Heart Moon sect and 100 Qi Gate, I will let you off." The Heart Moon sect's leader, Chang Yun, who slowly landed in front of Chang Haohua, threatened coldly, "If not, I will definitely lead the experts of the sect to slaughter your 100 Qi Gate." Crack! Just as Chang Yun's threatening voice fell, a crisp sound suddenly sounded in the silent Heart Moon sect. Accompanied by the crisp cracking sound, the head of the beautiful middle-aged woman, whose neck was in Yu Haoren's hand, tilted and her life force quickly disappeared. Following that, a strong murderous aura immediately rose from Chang Yun's body. "Yu Haoren, you dare to kill my wife. I will definitely turn your bones into ashes and then slaughter the tens of thousands of people in your 100 Qi Gate to avenge my wife." While Chang Yun was furious and threatening, he directly mobilized all of his origin power and soul power, intending to torture Yu Haoren after capturing him alive. But at this moment, a hand that was slowly reaching out appeared in front of him in an inconceivable way. The palm patted his shoulder gently, and the origin power and soul power that he mobilized just now returned to his Dantian and sea of consciousness without his control. Following that, the palm that patted his shoulder directly grabbed his neck and lifted him up. In the past 6 months of training, I, Yu Haoren, have become much gentler. Otherwise, with your threat just now, the entire Heart Moon sect would definitely not grow. Looking up at Chang Yun, who was lifted up by him, Yu Haoren's seemingly gentle words made everyone present shiver involuntarily. "Yu Haoren, what is your cultivation?" When his neck was grabbed, although a strong force directly sealed his Dantian and sea of consciousness, making Chang Yunyi unable to mobilize his origin power and soul power. He could still use a part of his divine sense to be able to directly disperse the origin power and soul power of a first-grade martial saint expert and suppress the use of the power of law of a martial saint expert. Chang Yunyi was terrified and couldn't help but want to know the true cultivation and strength of Yu Haoran at this moment. The cultivation of an early ninth-grade martial saint, infinitely close to the strength of a peerless martial saint expert. When he killed Chang Yunyi's life, Yu Haoran fulfilled his last wish and replied. Staring at Yu Haoran with his eyes wide open, Chang Yunyi's eyes immediately revealed a look of disbelief. But the look of disbelief remained on Chang Yunyi's face forever. Because when fulfilling his last wish, Yu Haoran's hand that was grabbing his neck suddenly exerted force. When he wiped out the life force of his body, he also directly destroyed the soul in his sea of consciousness. Looking at his father who was thrown on the ground by Yu Haoran, Chang Haohua's eyes revealed an uncontrollable panic. Forcefully throwing Zhang Ro, who was in his arms, toward Yu Haoran, Chang Haohua immediately turned around and jumped out of the Heart Moon sect. Chapter 1174. Heart Moon sect, in front of the mountain gate. With a wave of his sleeve, Yu Haoran sent Zhang Ro, who had been thrown over by Chang Haohua, flying. He raised his head and looked at the few people who were running in all directions. A disdainful sneer flashed across his eyes. After that, Yu Haoran used his mind to wake up the black bear that was sleeping in the beast pet space. He pointed at the few people who were running for their lives and instructed. Black Bear, directly smash those few people who escaped into meat patties for me. Roar. The black bear, who had not seen blood for a long time, immediately roared excitedly at the sky and chased after the few elders who had reached the martial emperor realm. After handing over the few people who were running in all directions to the black bear, Yu Haoran did not continue to pay attention to them. Instead, he strode over to Zhang Ro, who had been knocked unconscious by a strong wind. Squatting down in front of Zhang Ro, Yu Haoran said with a gentle expression, "Little fellow, come out." After hearing Yu Haoran's call, a worm the size of a grain of rice crawled out from Zhang Ro's hair. Looking at the blue-clothed young man who had knocked out its master, the nine-legged worm's tiny eyes flashed with a trace of doubt. "Looks like you really have the temperament of a child. How long has it been, and you already don't remember me?" Yu Haoran, seeing the bewildered look in the nine-legged worm's eyes, Yu Haoran reminded it with a smile. Blue Moon's secret realm, on the mountain peak where the Een Spring was the person who personally pulled you out of the grass. After hearing Yu Haoran's reminder, the nine-legged worm's tiny eyes flashed with a trace of understanding, and its little head immediately nodded. But immediately after, it turned its head to look at the unconscious Zhang Ro, and a trace of anger appeared in its eyes. Nine-legged worm, I'm sorry. Feeling the surrounding temperature drop rapidly, Yu Haoran knew that the nine-legged worm, whose mind was still in its infancy, was gradually becoming angry under the influence of the beast pet contract. He immediately apologized guiltily. With your ultimate honorable nine heavens cloud-colored butterfly form, no one in this world can restrict your freedom, let alone control your life and death. After hearing Yu Haoran's apology, a trace of doubt flashed across the nine-legged worm's tiny eyes. It did not understand why the human in front of it would say something that it did not understand at all. However, even though the nine-legged worm couldn't understand his words, it knew that the human in front of it had no ill intentions towards it. The childish nine-legged worm's anger immediately dissipated, and the surrounding temperature returned to normal. He took out the wooden box containing the butterfly flowers from his storage ring and opened it in front of the nine-legged bug. The nine-legged bug immediately jumped into the wooden box excitedly and began to devour the butterfly flowers with all its might. Little fellow, a rank 5, rank 9 butterfly flower is enough for you to complete the first stage of butterfly transformation. Yu Haoran instructed with a smile as he watched the nine-legged worm devouring the butterfly flowers with all its might. At that time, when your life form changes, I will be able to use a secret technique to remove the beast pet contract between you and Zhang Ro and return your freedom. The nine-legged worm had to go through 9 metamorphoses before becoming the 9 heavens cloud-colored butterfly, which was renowned throughout the ancient era. Every transformation into an insect, as well as every transformation into a butterfly, was equivalent to the beginning of a new life form. At this time, the beast pet contract imprinted in the heavenly Tao soul will be temporarily detached from the contract. As long as he could find a way to change the target of the beast pet contract before its life form changed, he would be able to successfully remove the contract between the nine-legged worm, or rather, the 9 heavens cloud-colored butterfly, and Zhang. Of course, among the countless exotic beasts on the Tianxian continent, only exotic beasts that could change their life form would have the opportunity to break free from the beast pet contract. And it seemed like he was the only one who knew the secret and method to break free from the beast pet contract. As the unique energy contained in the butterfly flowers continued to increase the nine-legged worm's grade, it also helped it quickly gain sentience. Although the nine-legged worm didn't understand what Yu Haoran's instructions meant at first, it understood its condition after the butterfly flowers were fully consumed and its sentience was fully awakened. Before entering the butterfly state, the nine-legged worm bowed to Yu Haoran and thanked him. Young human expert, little bug thanks you for your help. Nine-legged worm, there's no need to thank me. Yu Haoran waved his hand in response to the nine-legged worm's gratitude. Because after you've completed the butterfly transformation process, I still have something I need your help with. As long as it's within my power, I'll do my best, the nine-legged worm promised with a nod. Nine-legged worm, don't worry about transforming your physique. Leave the rest to me, Yu Haoran promised with a nod. After receiving Yu Haoran's promise, the nine-legged worm slowly closed its eyes. Countless wisps of white mist emerged from its body and quickly enveloped it. Gently placing the wooden box on the ground, Yu Haoran immediately mobilized his divine telekinesis to search for any living creatures within a 100-mile radius. Finally, he found an earth dragon, also known as an earthworm. Using his primary energy to fix the earthworm to the side of the wooden box, Yu Haoran took a deep breath and quickly formed a seal with his 10 fingers. He performed the demonic path's secret technique, grafting flowers onto trees, allowing the earthworm's vitality to replace the nine-legged worms. In the end, he successfully shifted the target of the beast pet contract. While the nine-legged worm matured and broke free from the contract, Zhang also completed a new pet contract with the earthworm. Looking at the earthworm slowly crawling into Zhang's hair, Yu Haoran could almost imagine Zhang's rage after she woke up. He couldn't help but chuckle. He reached out to cover the wooden box with the nine-legged worm's pupa and put it into an empty storage bag before hanging it at his waist. Soon after, when Yu Haoran got up and was about to leave the Heart Moon sect, the Heart Moon sect disciple who had been severely injured by Yu Haoran's sharp gaze suddenly spoke. Vice sect leader Yu. Yes. Stopping the mobilization of his primary energy, Yu Haoran coldly asked. Vice sect leader Yu, if you can guarantee that when the Heart Moon sect is destroyed, this disciple will not be harmed in any way, then this disciple will tell you a secret. Facing Yu Haoran's cold questioning, the 5th grade martial warrior disciple said fearlessly. Using his mind, he took out a jade slip from his storage ring. After leaving behind a trace of his primary energy that could be used at the peak of a 9th grade martial king, he directly threw the jade slip to the disciple. Life-saving jade pendant. It can withstand an all-out attack from a peak 9th grade martial king expert. Yu Haoran indifferently explained. Vice sect leader Yu. The reason why Chang Yani was able to break through to the martial saint realm was because he obtained a treasure some time ago. Ecstatic, the Heart Moon sect disciple hurriedly said as he put away the jade slip. In a flash, he appeared in front of Chang Yani and bent down to take off the storage ring on his finger. Yu Haoran carefully checked it, but did not find a treasure that the disciple mentioned. Chapter 1175. Heart Moon Sect, in front of the mountain gate. Vice Sect Leader Yu. The treasure that can increase Chang Yunni's cultivation is actually a milky white stone that is about 1 meter tall. It seems that it can't be stored in a storage device, so it can only be stored in the Heart Moon Sect's treasury. Seeing the murderous look in Yu Haoran's eyes, the Heart Moon Sect's disciple quickly explained. It was stored in the Heart Moon Sect's treasury. After hearing the disciple's reminder, Yu Haoran immediately released his powerful divine sense and quickly found the exact location of the treasury. Kid, if you dare to lie to me, then the destruction of your divine soul is an extravagant hope for you. Before leaving for the treasury, Yu Haoran threatened with a murderous look. Vice sect leader Yu, I will stay in front of the mountain gate until you find the treasure. Then I will leave the Heart Moon Sect. Facing Yu Haoran's threat, the Heart Moon Sect's disciple quickly expressed his position. Nodding with satisfaction, Yu Haoran soared into the air and went straight to the treasury of the Heart Moon Forbidden Area. Looking at the green door of the treasury that was made of mysterious cyan iron, he didn't need to mobilize any spirit power or soul power. With just the physical strength of an early 9th grade martial saint, he smashed the green door into pieces with one punch. After experiencing the baptism of the pure spiritual liquid on the first floor of the Gu Liang family's treasury, Yu Haoran's heart didn't waver at all in the face of the faint spiritual qi that emerged from the first floor of the Heart Moon Sect's treasury. Stepping into the treasury, he glanced at the more than 20 wooden shelves on the first floor of the treasury and found that the highest quality spiritual stones were only 105th grade, first grade spiritual stones. He didn't bother to collect them at all and directly went to the second floor of the treasury through the stairs. The highest grade elixir was only a 6th grade, 7th grade earth spirit elixir that could increase the martial royal realm. After that, Yu Haoran also didn't have the intention to collect them. However, on the more than 10 wooden shelves that stored medicinal herbs, he accidentally found a 5th grade, 3rd grade illusory spirit herb that had long been extinct. Illusory spirit herb was a kind of strange, spiritual herb that could make living creatures hallucinate. It had the effect of increasing the divine soul and mental cultivation. With the illusory spirit herb as the main medicine and 8 other spiritual herbs that also contained a trace of hallucinogenic energy, it could refine an illusory spirit elixir that could greatly increase the mental cultivation. Although the elixir refined by the 3rd grade, 5th grade, 3rd grade illusory spirit herb didn't have any effect, for Wu Jingjun, who had the bloodthirsty physique, it was indeed a miraculous elixir that could help him quickly increase his cultivation and strengths. Putting away the wooden box containing the illusory spirit grass, Yu Haoran used his divine sense to check it again. After making sure he had not missed anything, he went up the stairs to the 3rd floor of the treasury. Sect leader had swords to the treasures, sword. As sword was B of the heaven treasures. However, although Yu Haoran didn't carefully check the hundreds of refining materials on the west side of the treasury's 3rd floor, he used his divine thought to put them all into an empty storage ring. He planned to pick out suitable materials for refining when he was free in Thaling. After entering the 4th floor, he used his divine thought to scan the dozens of books on the wooden shelves. He didn't stop and continued to enter the 5th floor. However, as soon as he stepped into the 5th floor of the treasury, the heavenly mandate mantra that he had created suddenly began to operate on its own without his control, forcibly suppressing a trace of panic in his heart. Yu Haoran immediately looked up at the middle of the 5th floor and saw a milky white stone placed on the ground. Life is both rootless and real. Life exists in the future, the present, and the past. Life can be controlled and manipulated. Life can be determined by heaven and changed by spirit. Life. When Yu Haoran's gaze landed on the milky white stone, an ethereal voice suddenly resounded throughout the entire 5th floor of the treasury. This is the legendary Destiny Stone. Thaling, who was refining instruments in Victor's time-accelerated space, was suddenly alarmed by the mysterious voice. Without any hesitation, he immediately separated a part of his divine thought to leave the time-accelerated space. After seeing the milky white stone on the 5th floor through the space in his knowledge sea, a special aura directly awakened the countless years of memories about the milky white stone in front of him. Thaling's voice trembled as he muttered to himself. When the Destiny Stone appears, the heavenly secrets will be in chaos. The heavenly calamity will come and destroy everything. Will the legendary great calamity of heaven and earth happen in this world? Howren, who was completely attracted by the milky white stone, didn't hear Thaling's words in his knowledge sea. He subconsciously walked to the milky white stone and stretched out his left hand to touch it. However, the moment his left hand touched the stone, the milky white stone immediately shattered. Then, a strand of milky white energy directly merged into his body. The Son of Destiny. Seeing the milky white energy merge into Howren's body, Thaling immediately became excited. He adjusted the order of refining instruments and used a part of his divine thought to continue purifying the impurities in the 9 pearls. Thaling's divine thought left Victor and appeared in Howren's knowledge sea. He quietly used his divine thought to carefully track the milky white energy that merged into Howren's body. Although he didn't track the milky white energy in the end, through the subtle changes in Howren's physique, he knew that the legend of the Destiny Stone and the dusty memories was actually happening to Howren. Thinking of the good relationship he had with Howren and the respect Howren had for him, Thaling felt extremely fortunate. He was glad that he didn't have evil intentions like the mysterious yellow saber, didn't stay out of this matter like the void mirror, didn't look down on him like the Xianyuan sword, and didn't act selfishly like the heaven refining pot. Otherwise, not only would he have lost the opportunity to reconstruct his body, but even his main body, Victor, would have been destroyed in the future great calamity of the world. Slowly opening his eyes, Howren couldn't suppress the joy in his eyes. Although the milky white energy that merged into his body didn't directly increase his cultivation and strength, it allowed him to clearly feel the changes in his physique. This kind of change in his physique had nothing to do with talent, potential, comprehension, or perseverance. It was related to his own destiny. Of course, what really surprised Howren was that the milky white energy that had fused into his body had not only eliminated the hidden dangers of his self-created heavenly mandate cultivation method, but also automatically made up for the deficiencies of his cultivation method and martial skill. It made his foundation more solid and gave him a greater chance of breaking through to the martial venerable realm in the future. Chapter 1176. Heart Moon Sect, in the 5th floor of the treasure house. The rank 4 primary ginseng pill that could directly raise the cultivation of a 9th grade martial saint. Howren picked up the pill bottle placed on the jade platform and poured out the pills inside. He glanced at them and nodded with satisfaction. Then, he looked at the treasures placed on the 2nd jade platform. It was a fist-sized essence stone. Howren, this essence stone is called Earth Dragon Essence. It is a relatively precious material for refining weapons. It can assist in refining weapons of the highest grade of the Sage Realm. Just as Howren picked up the essence stone and carefully observed it, Thaling explained in his sea of consciousness. Thaling, the weapon for Ling Fei has been refined. After hearing Thaling's reminder, Howren immediately asked in surprise, "It's still early for an Exalt Realm weapon. From the preparation of the materials to the formation of the formation inside the weapon, it was impossible to complete it without about half a year. If it weren't for the victor's ability to accelerate time, he wouldn't have chosen to refine an Exalt Realm weapon for Qin Lingfei in less than 15 days. Therefore, in the face of Howren's idiotic questioning, Thaling couldn't help but roll his eyes and reply, "It's still in the stage of refining the materials. Here you are." It was only the initial stage of refining the weapon. After hearing Thaling's reply, Howren was slightly disappointed. The good thing was that he had gained a lot recently. He was almost halfway done with the preparations for the wedding ceremony. As for whether the pagoda spirit would be able to make a suitable weapon for Qin Lingfei before the wedding, he was no longer looking forward to it. Therefore, Howren quickly put away the disappointment in his heart and directly sent the Earth Dragon Essence in his hand to Victor. Then, he looked at the treasure placed on the 3rd jade table. It was a jade box with a talisman on it. "Thaling, since you are not in a hurry to refine the weapon now, Help me see if there are any hidden dangers in the jade box. The talisman on the jade box was called Spirit Sealing Talisman. Under normal circumstances, it was used to prevent the loss of spiritual power from storing treasures. But sometimes it was used to seal dangerous and evil things. Don't worry, there's no danger. After scanning the jade box with his divine sense, Thaling reminded him with a smile. This is a third-step 9th grade, twin-headed purple mist flower. After opening the jade box, Howard looked at the two conjoined flowers that were wrapped in a layer of faint purple gas. Howard breathed heavily as he involuntarily said to himself, Howard, whether it's in your storage ring or in my body, Victor, there are more than 30 types of third-grade elixirs. Is a mere third grade, 9th grade, twin-headed purple mist flower worth your excitement? Thaling asked in confusion when he sensed the drastic change in Howard's mood. Heart Snow Lotus Seed, twin-headed purple mist flower, 3 flavors returning fragrance core, 4 directions autumn leaf, 5 elements profound heart fruit, hexagonal blood fleece flower root, 7 colors bug, 8 elements giant dragon blood, 9 resurrection grass. Facing Thaling's questioning, Howard took a deep breath and listed 9 different types of phase. Thaling, do you know what kind of pills can be refined using these 9 spiritual items? Combined with the 9 types of spiritual items that Howard had just mentioned, Thaling carefully recalled the types of medicinal pills that he was familiar with. Finally, he thought of a medicinal pill that was close to the origin of the 9 types of spiritual herbs. Howard, don't tell me it's the 9 tribulations, 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 9 tribulations? That's right. Nodding his head, Howard looked at the 2-headed purple mist flower with excitement in his eyes. 1 tribulation, 1 realm. 9 tribulations to break through the Emperor barrier. The 9 tribulations pill can be said to be the best pill that can help one quickly break through to the martial saint realm and strengthen one's foundation at the same time. After receiving Howard's confirmation, Thaling immediately checked the collection in Victor's storage ring. Finally, he found 3 flavors returning fragrance core, 5 elements profound heart fruit, hexagonal blood fleece flower root, and 8 elements giant dragon blood. In addition to the 2-headed purple mist flower that he had just obtained, he had collected 5 of the 9 types of spiritual herbs needed to refine the 9 tribulations pill. Thaling, among the remaining 4 types of spiritual items, I know the whereabouts of the Heart Snow Lotus Seed, for directions autumn leaf, and 7 colors bug. The only one that I don't have any information about is the 9 resurrection grass. Hearing Thaling mention the number of spiritual items that he had collected over the past 2 years, Howard said with a frown, Howard, if it were someone else, it would be very difficult to obtain the 9 resurrection grass. However, for you, an alchemy grandmaster who can refine the supreme Huazuan pill and the 7 lives mysterious gate pill, it is actually not difficult at all. Thaling reminded with a smile. Thaling, I understand. Nodding, Howard indicated that he understood what he meant. Then, he looked at the treasure placed on the 4th jade platform. It was a dark gray talisman with a slightly damaged corner. The talisman patterns drawn on the talisman were very complicated and mysterious. Even if one used the strength close to the martial saint realm, they could only stare at the talisman patterns for 3 seconds at most. If it was longer than this time, the divine thought would vaguely have a tendency to break away from the control of the divine soul. Closing his eyes and pointing at the talisman placed on the jade platform, Howard asked with slight fear, Thaling, what talisman is this? Let me take a look first. Thaling, who was somewhat unsure of the origin of the talisman, directly left the sea of consciousness with his divine soul and stood in front of the 4th jade platform. However, just as he steadied himself, and before he could take a closer look, the talisman that was lying peacefully on the jade platform suddenly floated up and quickly condensed into a faint starry sky. Thowling was so frightened that he immediately returned to the sea of consciousness. Howren, this is the Void Interstellar Talisman. It is a divine talisman that can tear apart the void and carry out interstellar teleportation. Thowling, who instantly returned to the sea of consciousness, said with a look of surprise. Thowling, in the endless void outside the Tianxian continent, are there really other continents and living beings? A divine talisman that could carry out interstellar teleportation. When he heard Thowling shout out the origin of the talisman, Howren's first reaction was not surprise, but instead, he was filled with doubts. Howren, if your cultivation level breaks through to the martial venerable realm and you can refine the nine tribulations pill in advance, then the interstellar adventure in the endless void will be the best place for training. In response to Howren's doubts, Thowling looked through the space between the sea of consciousness and the treasury and looked at the endless void. His eyes were filled with endless yearning as he sighed emotionally. Because the knowledge of different star regions can greatly expand your experience. Fighting with living beings of different realms and cultivation systems can hone your own martial arts. In this case, it will be beneficial for you to break through to the almighty realm of Emperor Wu in the future, or even to see through the mystery of life and death, and the key to advancing to the martial god realm. Thowling, after the 5 regions hidden dragon ranking competition ends, if you don't have any other matters to attend to, how about you accompany me to the endless void? Chapter 1177. In the 5th floor of the Heart Moon Sex Treasury. Thowling's exclamation and encouragement made Howren feel the blood in his body begin to boil slowly. At this moment, he wanted to step into the endless void with his own feet. At this moment, he wanted to personally discover the secrets hidden in the endless void and experience the adventure that most cultivators would never experience in their entire lives. I'm happy to accompany you. Thowling, who is also filled with endless memories of the endless void, replied with a smile. He took out a wooden box, closed his eyes, and carefully put the interstellar transmission talisman into the wooden box by feeling. Then, he directly put it into the victor and told Thowling to store it carefully. After opening his eyes, Howren looked at the treasure placed on the 5th jade platform. It was a defensive armor that had reached the high grade of the Emperor realm. It could be used to upgrade the grade of the Rui Bell. Howren directly put it into the storage ring that was used to store magic tools. Then he looked at the 6th jade platform. There were 3 light golden incense sticks that were about 20 centimeters long. He reached out and picked up one of the incense sticks. After sniffing it carefully, he couldn't help but frown slightly. Because the incense in his hand was colorless and odorless, it was impossible to distinguish its type. However, it was definitely a precious treasure that could be stored in the 5th floor of the treasury by the experts of the Heart Moon sect. Howren, this is the ambergris incense made from the dragon saliva of the venerable realm giant dragon. Although it is colorless and odorless after burning, it can calm one's chi, eliminate one's inner demons, and improve one's state of mind. Thowling explained with a smile after scanning the incense sticks in Howren's hand with his spiritual sense. If you light an ambergris incense at your wedding, then the guests who come to attend the wedding, who are below the 9th level of the martial saint realm, will at least have a breakthrough of 1 to 3 small realms in their state of mind. That's right. Since he wanted to give Qin Ling Fei an unforgettable wedding, it would be too vulgar to only use a betrothal gift to shock everyone. With the combination of the 9th heaven cloud butterfly and the ambergris, the whole wedding would be elegant and vulgar, which would be worth remembering forever. Howren happily put away the 3 sticks of ambergris, then turned his gaze to the 7th jade pedestal, which was also the last treasure on the 5th floor of the treasury. This was a jade slip. The jade slip recorded the Heart Moon sect's 1,000-year-old mental cultivation method, which was only at the early stage of the Earth stage. After successfully creating the heavenly mandate mantra that could infinitely increase its grade, he didn't even care about ordinary heaven tier mantras, let alone the moon-chasing heart mantra that was only at the early stage of the Earth tier. Therefore, after Yu Haoran picked up the jade slip with a mental cultivation method, he didn't put it into his storage ring or Victor. Instead, he held it tightly between his fingers. Then, he used his divine telekinesis to check the treasury again. After making sure that he had not missed anything, he turned around and left the treasury. Heart Moon Sect, in front of the mountain gate. Junior brother Yuan, it's not like you don't know Yu Haoran's narrow-minded character. Why did you take the initiative to provoke him? After waiting for half an hour after Yu Haoran entered the sect's treasury, a disciple who had also been severely injured by Yu Haoran's fierce gaze criticized him. He was envious that junior brother Yuan could get the life-saving jade slip, but he was also worried that he would be implicated. Senior brother Qian, I took the risk to provoke Yu Shixiang in order to survive. Junior brother Yuan said with a worried expression as he used a thin thread to hang the life-saving jade slip in his underwear. After losing the sect master who is a martial sage, the sect master's wife, and several elders who are martial emperors, the Heart Moon sect will immediately become a fat piece of meat in the eyes of others. In the entire 100 Qi Gates sphere of influence, only Yu Haoran has enough prestige and strength to protect us. I took the risk to betray the sect's interests just to save everyone's lives. Junior brother Yuan, although you have good intentions, have you ever thought about the consequences if Yu Haoran is not satisfied with the secret you revealed? In the face of junior brother Yuan's good intentions, not only was senior brother Qian not grateful, but he also criticized him. I'm afraid that not only will you, Yuan Kai, be killed by Yu Haoran, but I, Qian Xingda, and these senior brothers and martial uncles in front of the sect will also be implicated by you. Senior brother Qian, what do you want to do? He clearly wanted to help everyone with good intentions, but in the end, he was misunderstood by the other party. This made Yuan Kai feel cold in his heart, and his face instantly turned gloomy as he asked, kneel on the ground and commit suicide in front of the sect. I hope to resolve Yu Haoran's anger. Qian Xingda took a few steps back and winked at a few senior brothers who had reached the martial grandmaster realm. Qian Xingda, with Yu Shixiang's cultivation and temperament, even if I commit suicide in front of the sect, I'm sure he won't accept the life-saving jade slip he gave me. In the face of Qian Xingda's choice, Yuan Kai sneered and questioned. At that time, you can take away the life-saving jade slip and save your life in the great calamity of Heart Moon sect. No. After Yuan Kai guessed his thoughts, Qian Xingda's face changed. After feeling the senior brothers who were at the martial grandmaster realm behind him stop, he quickly retorted. If Yu Haoran doesn't take away the life-saving jade slip, then give a life-saving jade slip to the strongest martial uncle and let him protect the sect with a life-saving jade slip. Huh. In the face of Qian Xingda's explanation, Yuan Kai's eyes were filled with ridicule as he laughed loudly. The information you provided is very important. That stone is indeed of great help to me, Yu Haoran. Just as junior brother Yuan was laughing, Yu Haoran's gentle voice suddenly sounded in his ears. Yu Shixiang. Junior brother Yuan immediately stopped laughing and turned around to greet him. This is your Heart Moon Sect's inherited mental cultivation method martial skill, Heart Soul Moon Chasing. Take it as a reward for the important information you provided just now. Nodding his head, Yu Haoran handed the mental cultivation method jade slip he obtained from the 5th floor of the treasury to junior brother Yuan and said. Then, he turned his head and glanced at Qian Xingda and the others. A trace of disdain flashed in his eyes. Turning back, Yu Haoran looked at junior brother Yuan and continued. The door of the treasury has been smashed by me. I didn't touch most of the treasures inside. Now, I'll give them all to you. Yu Shixiang, is this true? Junior brother Yuan asked in disbelief as the blessing came too suddenly. That's right. After nodding his head to confirm, Yu Haoran ordered Black Bear, who had already returned and was hiding in the sky above the mountain gate. Black Bear, protect him and send him to a safe place after he takes the treasures in the treasury. Yes, master. Black Bear quickly landed in front of the mountain gate and responded. Yu Shixiang, thank you for your kindness. Not only did he give all the treasures in the treasury to him, but he also sent a pet beast to protect his safety. This made junior brother Yuan so touched that he immediately knelt down to thank him. However, before he could finish his words, he was interrupted by Yu Haoran, who directly rose into the air and left the mountain gate in an instant. Chapter 1178. The 100 Gate, Qingyun Peak. Floating above Qingyun Peak, Yu Haoran looked down at the familiar courtyard and scenery. A complicated look appeared in his eyes. Actually, as his mental state cultivation reached the martial honorable realm, he had already chosen to forgive what had happened in Qingyuan Hall. As for Chu Zhongyu and the others, he no longer had any resentment in his heart. The reason why he had not returned to Qingyun Peak was not only because he had many things to do, but also because he realized that he was no longer on the same level as Chu Zhongyu and the others. To be more precise, Chu Zhongyu and the others had completely fallen behind. Back then, he had done his best to help Chu Zhongyu and the others improve their cultivation, and he had done his best to rope in the Gongsun siblings to join Qingyun Peak. He wanted to repay the kindness from his previous life, and he also wanted to have a group of trustworthy friends and brothers who could help him on his journey to the peak of martial arts. However, after more than a year of experience, he realized that talent, potential, comprehension, and perseverance were only a small part of a martial artist's rapid growth. The conditions that really determined whether a martial artist could quickly reach the peak of martial arts were mental state and physique. Among the 10 disciples of Qingyun Peak, only Wu Zhengjun could fulfill these conditions. Although he had been separated from Wu Zhengjun for a long time, he and Qin Tianze had a special communication method that allowed them to know about Wu Zhengjun's situation at all times. The cruel battlefield seemed to have completely awakened his bloodthirsty physique. The bloody slaughter had even stimulated his natural killing instinct. In just a year, Wu Zhengjun had not only activated his bloodthirsty physique to the limit, but also had the ability to advance to the bloodthirsty physique. His cultivation had also reached the peak of the 9th grade martial royal realm. As for the 8th senior brother Lin Xian, who had entered the battlefield with Wu Zhengjun and undergone the same training, his cultivation had just reached the martial king realm. He was not even qualified to participate in the Southern Region Hidden Dragon rankings. From this point alone, one could see the importance of mental state and physique. As for Gongsun Yuding, who possessed the immortal bone physique, although her cultivation progress was very fast, she lacked bloody experience, so she did not have the ability to follow him to battle on the martial path. However, if she were to leave Qingyun Peak and choose to train alone, coupled with the 9 Heavens profound heart technique that he had taught her, perhaps she would be able to catch up with Wu Zhengjun very quickly. After all, the combination of the 9 Heavens Mystic Heart Sutra and the Immortal Bone had already allowed her to stand at a very high starting point. 9th Senior Brother, are you back? Just as Yu Haoran was considering whether or not to interfere with Gongsun Yuding's future cultivation, a timid voice sounded in his ear. Yu Haoran lowered his head and glanced at Gongsun Yuding, who had appeared in front of Hidden Moon Pavilion. He slowly landed in front of her. Junior sister. With a faint smile on his face, Yu Haoran called out gently. 9th Senior Brother, it's really you. Ever since that scene in Qingyuan Hall, Yu Haoran had not only gradually distanced himself from the relationship between him and his junior sister, but he also no longer had a smile on his face. At this moment, seeing that his face had regained its usual gentle smile, Gongsun Yuding was so excited that she didn't know what to say. At this moment, she only wanted to tell this joyous news to everyone. Thus, she directly turned and ran towards Chu Zhongyu's side courtyard, then loudly shouted, 9th Senior Brother is back. 9th Senior Brother is back. Seeing that Gongsun Yuding had lost control of her emotions, Yu Haoran lightly smiled and shook his head. He then turned his head to look at Hidden Moon Pavilion, where he had lived in both his previous and current lives. He pushed open the courtyard door and walked in. Looking at the spotless courtyard, he knew that during the time he had been away, his senior brothers and the Gongsun siblings had been taking care of Hidden Moon Pavilion. Walking into the pavilion, Yu Haoran couldn't help but fall into deep thought as he looked at the smooth and clean stone chairs and tables. After marrying Qin Lingfei, he would have to participate in the Hidden Dragon ranking competition between the southern and 5 regions. Regardless of the final result of the competition, he had enough confidence to advance to the realm of martial honor. After becoming a martial honor, he would have to head to the northern and southern regions to find the ingredients to refine the 9 Tribulations pill. If the 9 Tribulations pill was successfully refined, and he didn't have any worldly matters to attend to, he would use the Galaxy Teleportation Talisman to leave the Tianxian continent and head to the Endless Void to train. He might not even be able to return to Clear Wind Peak in a few decades or a few centuries. He might not even be able to see his senior brothers and junior sister Gongsun again. Thinking of this, Yu Haoran suddenly had an impulse. He wanted to do something for his senior brothers and the Gongsun siblings before he left. Whether it was high-quality spirit stones or high-grade pills, they all required a certain level of cultivation to be used. With the cultivation and state of mind of his senior brothers, if he gave them too many high-quality spirit stones and pills, not only would it not help them, but it would also harm them. Moreover, if he gave them too many spirit stones and pills, it would gradually make them lazy and drag down their cultivation. After thinking about it, Yu Haoran finally decided to change the environment of Clear Cloud Peak. He would personally turn Clear Cloud Peak into a paradise, which could be considered as fulfilling one of his wishes before he left Clear Cloud Peak. Yu Haoran walked out of the pavilion and nodded to Chu Zhongyu and the others who had already gathered in Hidden Moon Pavilion. Then, he rose into the air and stood in the sky above Clear Cloud Peak. "Brother Ran, lend me a hand." Yu Haoran's second clone, who was cultivating in the victor, signaled for it to guide him in setting up a formation that could gather heaven and earth spiritual qi. "Brother Yu, if you want to completely transform the entire peak into a paradise, you'll need at least 9 7th grade spirit veins or 18 8th grade spirit veins." Hearing that Yu Haoran wanted to turn Clear Cloud Peak into a paradise, the second clone first used his divine sense to measure the area of Clear Cloud Peak. Then, using the formation to gather heaven and earth spiritual qi, he calculated the number of spirit veins needed. "Brother Ran, as for the treasure to suppress the formation, I plan to use a 6th grade spirit vein." Nodding, Yu Haoran gave his idea. If you use a 6th grade spirit vein and 9 7th grade spirit veins, then the heaven and earth spiritual qi in Clear Cloud Peak will be 10 times denser than in the Holy Poison Cult's Sealed Moon Pavilion. After carefully calculating the final effect of the spirit gathering formation given by the second clone, Yu Haoran glanced at the puzzled Chu Zhongyu and the others, and sighed with a complicated expression. "Brother Ran, let's turn Clear Cloud Peak into a paradise that won't lose to a first-rate sect. Consider it the last thing we can do for Master and Senior Brother before we leave." "Okay." Nodding, the second clone began to guide the arrangement of the spirit gathering formation. It was different from the spirit gathering formation set up in the Holy Poison Cult's Sealed Moon Pavilion. Due to the limited size and location of the Sealed Moon Pavilion, they could only use a disc that could gather heaven and earth spiritual qi as the core to set up the formation. Chapter 1179. Qingyan Peak, the Sky Above. Taking a deep breath, Yu Haoran took out the 9 sealed rank 7 spirit veins from his storage ring and removed the seal. Roar! Accompanied by 9 deafening dragon roars, the 9 spirit veins that broke free from the seal turned into 9 giant white dragons that were more than 3,000 meters long. Instinctively knowing that they would still face the fate of being sealed, the 9 giant dragons that broke free from the seal roared and planned to escape into the depths of the mountain. "Want to run? Dream on." Yu Haoran roared as he watched the 9 spirit veins roaring as they fled into the depths of the mountain range. Then he mobilized his origin energy and soul power to form 2 gigantic palms that blotted out the sky. He quickly grabbed at the 9 spirit vein dragons. Whether it was the dragon roars or the white dragons that returned to their original length, it instantly alarmed everyone in the 100 Chi Gate. Lai Yin, who had replaced Chu Zhongyu as the new gate master of the 100 Chi Gate, immediately left his place of cultivation after hearing the deafening dragon roars and looked in the direction of Qingyun Peak. When he saw the 9 giant white dragons that were more than 3,000 meters long, his eyes immediately revealed a look of horror. Because with his vision and experience, it was impossible for him to distinguish that the 9 giant white dragons that were more than 3,000 meters long were actually the spirit veins that were no threat at all. Looking at the 9 giant white dragons that were roaring at the sky, Lion instinctively thought that they might have come from the depths of the mountain and that their purpose was to destroy the 100 Chi Gate. Therefore, he did not consider informing anyone at all and planned to escape the 100 Chi Gate immediately. But just as he mobilized his spirit energy and soul power and planned to escape the gate, he heard a familiar roar. Lion immediately moved his gaze and saw a young man in blue clothes. So he's back. After seeing the familiar figure, the fear caused by the giant dragons immediately disappeared. Lion then tidied his clothes and soared into the sky, intending to meet Yu Haoran personally. In a hidden secret in the law enforcement peak, looking at the completely unconscious Ouyang Haoyu, Gao Wanping's eyes revealed an uncontrollable joy. After nearly 10 years of planning and spending endless effort, he could finally get what he wanted today. Haoyu, please don't blame Master for being ruthless. Because the moment you decided to acknowledge me as your master, your future was already decided. Gao Yinping lifted the fainted Ouyang Haoyu and assumed a posture of cultivation with her palms facing up. Looking at the handsome face in front of her, Gao Yinping said happily, "At the same time, don't feel wronged." Over the past few years, under Master's indulgence, you have also enjoyed the treatment that thousands of disciples in the law enforcement peak are unable to obtain. Even if I die now, it will be worth it. After comforting the unconscious Ouyang Haoyu, Gao Wanping withdrew the smile on his face and took a deep breath. Just as he was about to use the Devil Path secret technique, a deafening dragon roar suddenly resounded in his ears. Ever since something happened in the depths of the mountain range a year ago, there are no longer any rank 5 Emperor Realm beasts in the mountain range where the sect is located. After hearing the deafening roar, Gao Wanping couldn't help but frown and mutter to himself. Then, where did the beast roar that clearly surpassed the 5th rank of the Monarch Realm come from? In order to display the demonic path's secret arts and complete the fusion of the divine soul, one needed an absolutely quiet environment. Faced with the disturbance of a beast that clearly surpassed the 5th rank of the Monarch Realm, it was no longer suitable for him to continue using the demonic path's secret arts. Therefore, after helping Ouyang Haoyu consume another medicinal pill that would allow him to continue sleeping, Gao Wanping got up and left the secret room. Immediately after, he was startled by the 9 white dragons that suddenly appeared in the sky above Qingyun Peak like a raging inferno. Just as he instinctively wanted to return to the secret room and escape the 100 Chi Gate with Ouyang Haoyu, he was also attracted by the familiar roar. After seeing the familiar figure, Gao Wanping's eyes revealed a look of hatred. According to his plan, after using the demonic path secret arts to replace Ouyang Haoyu, he would completely leave the 100 Chi Gate and join the expedition to the east led by Meng Yan. With his cultivation as a martial saint, he would earn enough military merits to complete the regrets he had left behind. However, he never expected that Meng Yun, who could help him rise to the top and make up for the regrets in his heart, would actually be killed by Yu Haoran. This completely disrupted the plan he had been planning for nearly 10 years. However, when he thought about the news he had received from the spies in Xianyang City, he knew that Yu Haoran had now grown into an existence that he could not afford to provoke. Therefore, Gao Yinping, who had forcefully suppressed the hatred in his heart, rose into the air and flew towards Qingyun Peak with a smile on his face. The Palace of Contributions. Kong Yung-ah lay motionless on the bed. Tears hung from the corners of her eyes as she stared at the palace master of the Palace of Contributions. Her eyes were filled with a thick sense of hatred. "My good disciple, don't view your master with such hatred." Faced with Kong Yung-ah's hate-filled eyes, the palace master of the Palace of Contributions, spoke with a complacent look on his face. Because even though I'm still your master now, once you become a real woman, I'll be your man. As she watched the palace master approach her, Kong Yung-ah closed her eyes and screamed in her heart, "Yu Shi-xiang, come and save me." Just as the palace master of the Palace of Contributions walked to the bedside and reached out his hand to undo Kong Yung-ah's clothes, the deafening roar of a dragon suddenly sounded in his ears. Why would a real dragon descend to the remote 100-chi gate? After hearing the pure roar of a dragon, the palace master of the Palace of Contributions' expression changed slightly as he muttered to himself in a grave tone. Glancing at Kong Yung-ah, who was also attracted by the roar of a dragon and had opened her eyes, the palace master of the Palace of Contributions reached out his hand to caress her face and said gently, "Be good and wait for your master. I'll be there in a moment." Then, the palace master of the Palace of Contributions stepped out of the room and appeared in the courtyard. This is a huge dragon transformed from a rank 7 spiritual vein. When he saw the 9 huge white dragons appear in the sky above Qingyun Peak, the palace master of the Palace of Contributions muttered to himself in astonishment. Then, his gaze turned towards the figure that he had never met before but had heard of countless times. "You, Howren, even though I don't want to meet you now, with your current reputation and status, if I want to continue staying in the 100-chi gate, I have no choice but to meet you." After sighing helplessly, the palace master of the Palace of Contributions took a deep breath and a warm smile appeared on his face. He then soared to the sky and headed straight for Qingyun Peak. Even though he did not use his full strength, he had mobilized a total of 70% of his origin power and soul power to form a huge palm. Its power was at the level of a First Tribulation quasi-martial honorable. Faced with such a powerful attack, the huge dragon transformed from the 9 spiritual veins actually shattered the huge palm. Just as Yu Haoren wanted to mobilize even more power to capture the 9 spiritual vein huge dragons, his divine sense unexpectedly sensed a few people rushing over. A thought suddenly flashed through his mind. Chapter 1180. In the sky above Qingyun Peak, Lai Yin, Gao Wanping, the Hall Master of the Merit Hall, and the elders of the Senior Statesman's Peak were quickly approaching Qingyun Peak. When they saw Yu Haoren quickly transform into a towering 2,000 meters tall giant, their smiles were instantly replaced by shock. Seeing Yu Haoren transform into a 2,000-meter tall giant, Lai Yin secretly decided, although I am now the gate master of the 100-chi gate, all important matters of the sect will still be decided by Qingyun Peak in the future. With Yu Haoren's existence, the 100-chi gate and the Emperor Qin Empire are not places to stay for long. It seems that I need to start the second plan and hurry to the Yushu Temple to meet up with Zhao Ji. Seeing Yu Haoren transform into a 2,000-meter tall giant, Gao Wanping clenched his fists tightly in his sleeves and secretly decided in his heart, "It seems that I need to start the plan of seizing the treasure in advance and leave the 100-chi gate as soon as possible. Otherwise, the situation may change at any time." Similarly, seeing Yu Haoren transform into the body of the ancestral sorcerer, the Hall Master of the Merit Hall secretly decided, "Little guy, come back to me obediently." Feeling the 9 spirit vein dragons in his hands begin to struggle with all their might, Yu Haoren said with a chuckle as he clenched his fists tightly. Seeing Yu Haoren successfully capture the 9 spirit veins, the second clone immediately ordered, "Brother Yu, according to the layout of the 9 palaces' 8 trigrams formation, seal the 9 spirit veins into the positions of the 9 palaces." Using the sky-covering giant palms, he forcibly slapped the 9 spirit veins into Qingyun Peak. Then, according to the actions of the second clone and his knowledge sea, he began to use his newly created sealing technique. When the 9 spirit veins attempted to escape from the peak, he directly sealed them in the peak. "Brother Yu, take out the rank 6 spirit vein." After completely sealing the 9 spirit veins, the second clone immediately ordered. He quickly took out a rank 6 spirit vein and removed the seal on it. "Brother Yu, use Hidden Moon Pavilion as the formation point, and use the same method to seal the rank 6 spirit vein under Hidden Moon Pavilion's pavilion. The second clone hurriedly instructed the moment the talisman was removed. He directly grabbed the giant dragon that had transformed into a 5,000-meter-long spirit vein. Before it could even struggle to escape, he slapped it into the pavilion of the Hidden Moon Pavilion. Then, he used a sealing technique to completely seal the rank 6 spirit vein. Take out 48 tier, 4 grade 1 spirit stones, and 1 tier, 4 grade 9 spirit stone. The clone continued to instruct. After quickly taking out 49 spirit stones, Yuhaoran didn't need his clone's instructions. He put 48 4th grade spirit stones into the 9 7th grade spirit veins. Then, using the 4th grade 9th grade spirit stones as a guide, he activated the 6th grade spirit vein sealed under the Hidden Moon Pavilion. Boom! When the 4th stage 9th grade spirit stone floating in the Hidden Moon Pavilion exploded, the sound of thunder suddenly came from the sky above Clear Cloud Peak. Accompanied by the sound of thunder, countless drops of pure spiritual liquid fell like a drizzle. This is the liquefied form of the spiritual chi of heaven and earth when it reaches a certain limit. When the raindrops fell from the sky and hit his face and quickly entered his body, Chu Zhongyu couldn't help but shout excitedly, "Senior brothers, I'm about to break through." After hearing Chu Zhongyu's excited reminder, Gongsun Yiming opened his mouth and swallowed a few mouthfuls of the spiritual liquid. The pure spiritual energy contained in the spiritual liquid had pushed him to the brink of breaking through. He immediately began to forcefully break through uncontrollably. Isn't this the method of the legendary immortals? Seeing the pure spiritual liquid continuously dripping from the sky above Clear Cloud Peak, Lai Yin, Gao Wanping, and the other elders muttered to themselves. Their eyes were filled with deep envy. If they could cultivate in such a paradise, the peak of the 9th grade Martial King realm would be just around the corner. Reaching the Martial Saint realm would no longer be a dream. It seems that we need to inform the Palace Master to get rid of Yuhaoran as soon as possible. Otherwise, he will definitely become a thorn in the side of the Yushu Temple in the future. In addition to being shocked, a strong murderous intent emerged in the Hall Master of the Merit Palace. The purity of the spiritual chi is nearly 15 times denser than that of the Inuit Pavilion of the Holy Poison Sect. After reaching out and catching a drop of spiritual liquid, Yuhaoran said to his second doppelganger with great satisfaction after absorbing it, "That's not right." After hearing Yuhaoran's evaluation, his second doppelganger immediately used his divine sense to absorb a drop of spiritual liquid. After carefully examining it, he frowned and said, "The spirit gathering formation I just set up is barely of the earth rank. The spiritual liquid that can be formed from 10 spirit veins definitely can't reach this level. What's going on?" Second doppelganger. This is the result of the heaven-measuring ruler, the hidden treasure of the 100 Chi Gate. Just as his second doppelganger was wondering why the power of the formation he had set up had inexplicably increased, Faling, who had suddenly left the victor, spoke with a solemn expression. Yuhaoran signaled his second doppelganger to return to the victor to continue cultivating. He asked in confusion, "Faling, hasn't the weapon spirit of the heaven-measuring ruler been forcefully extracting the spiritual chi in this mountain range to suppress the backlash from the poison in its body? Why is it feeding the spiritual chi of Qingyan Peak?" "Because the poison in the heaven-measuring ruler's body has completely disappeared and the weapon spirit is about to awaken," Faling explained with a gloomy expression. "Faling, this is good news," Yuhaoran said excitedly, not noticing Faling's gloomy expression. "With your deep relationship with the weapon spirit of the heaven-measuring ruler, you will definitely be able to persuade it to follow me. If we have the help of the ultimate Emperor Realm weapon, the heaven-measuring ruler, then after the Hidden Dragon ranking competition is over, we can go to the forbidden area of the Death Swamp to fight for the fairy woodvine that contains the wood origin. Yuhaoran, I don't know if you remember when we first found the heaven-measuring ruler. I told you the result of awakening the weapon spirit of the heaven-measuring ruler. Thowling reminded him with a gloomy expression in the face of Yu Haoran's overly excited expression. Of course I remember. Nodding, Yu Haoran thought for a moment and then said, with your deep relationship with the heaven-measuring ruler, as long as I can remove the poison in the heaven-measuring ruler's body and awaken the sleeping weapon spirit, there's a great chance of obtaining. Speaking of this, Yu Haoran suddenly stopped talking, and a trace of solemnity appeared in his eyes. Thowling, can you find out who removed the poison in the heaven-measuring ruler? Yu Haoran asked with a gloomy expression after his mind sense condensed into a body and entered the sea of consciousness. Shaking his head, Thowling explained, the weapon spirit of the heaven-measuring ruler that is about to awaken has the strength of Emperor Wu at the peak of the 9th level. In my current state, I dare not easily use my divine thought to check, lest it discover my existence. In this regard, Yu Haoran nodded to express his understanding. Chapter 1181. In the sky above Qingyun Peak. After his mind returned to his body, Yu Haoran didn't immediately open his eyes. Instead, he carefully thought about how to find the culprit behind the heaven-measuring ruler's poison. Martial nephew Yu, I haven't seen you for a long time. I didn't expect your strength to be comparable to an immortal. Seeing Yu Haoran quietly floating in the air without opening his eyes for a long time, Gao Wanping, who had a good relationship with Yu Haoran and felt a little impatient in his heart, greeted him with a smile. He took the initiative to greet him. First, he wanted to carefully feel the changes in Qingyun Peak. In the future, when his strength and status reach a certain height, he would also create an identical paradise for himself. Secondly, the pressure that Yu Haoran gave him was simply too great. Fearing that something unexpected would happen, he only wanted to exchange pleasantries with Ouyang Haoyu as soon as possible and immediately return to the secret room to use the Devil Dao secret technique to complete the switch between him and Ouyang Haoyu. Then, he would quietly leave the 100-foot sect and the Great Qin Empire sphere of influence. After hearing Gao Wanping's greeting, Yu Haoran suddenly remembered his identity as the Peak Lord of the Law Enforcement Peak. An idea immediately flashed through his mind. Martial Uncle Gao, you flatter me. The changes in Qingyun Peak are just a simple transformation using the combination of formations and spirit veins. How could I dare to call it an immortal's method? After smiling modestly, Yu Haoran immediately put away the smile on his face. Just as he was about to discuss with Gao Wanping about borrowing the power of the Law Enforcement Peak to investigate some things for him, he unexpectedly saw a familiar person. A person who had chased him for nearly 3 years in his previous life and was later ruthlessly tortured to death by him using poison. Martial Uncle Gao. Who is this person? Pointing at the middle-aged man standing to the right of Lai Yin, Yu Haoran's eyes gradually revealed a trace of a thoughtful expression. Martial nephew Yu, don't you know the new hall master of the Merit Hall? Seeing that the middle-aged man Yu Haoran pointed at was the hall master of the Merit Hall, who had been in office for more than a year, Gao Wanping said with a face of surprise. Hall Master Liu of the Merit Hall. Yu Haoran nodded with a smile on his face again. He walked toward Palace Master Liu and said with a smile, not only do I know him, but I'm very familiar with him. Looking at Yu Haoran, who was walking towards him, Liu Shanxin, the hall master of the Merit Hall, took a deep breath. A warm smile also appeared on his face as he went up to him. However, Yu Haoran's next sentence froze the smile on his face. Liu Shanxin, I wonder how the master of the underground palace is doing. Martial nephew Yu, what do you mean? Liu Shanxin nervously asked as he clenched his fists in his sleeves. It is said that the master of the Yushu Temple's underground palace had once secretly nurtured 28 experts who grasped different auxiliary cultivation systems based on the 28 constellation seeds from the black market auction of Mount Shuangniu. Then, he placed them in different sects and family forces. Faced with Liu Shanxin's question, Yu Haoran stopped and said with a smile on his face. Among them, the one that the master of the underground palace trusts the most is the Heart Moon Fox, who is known for her scheming and poison cultivation. Lu Shanshin's expression changed slightly before returning to normal in an instant. He had a puzzled look on his face. Martial nephew, I don't know what you're talking about. Heart Moon Fox Lu Shanshin, your methods may be able to deceive everyone in the 100 Qi Gate, including my master Feng Qingyan. However, don't even think about deceiving me, Yu Haoran. Seeing that Lu Shanshin was still pretending to be crazy and refusing to admit his true identity, Yu Haoran put away the smile on his face and said with a sinister expression, Lu Shanshin, not only do I know your true origin, but I also know your true purpose of hiding in the 100 Qi Gate. Is that so? Lu Shanshin's eyes were filled with a hint of mockery as he began to secretly unseal the seal with his 10 fingers in his sleeves. In that case, this Hall Master would like to hear it. Faling, can you perform the possession technique? I want to use the power of the Law of Time Scars to see how Lu Shanshin detoxifies the poison in the Sky Measuring Ruler. Only by revealing Lu Shanshin's true purpose of hiding in the 100 Qi Gate would they directly shed all pretense of cordiality, and the only thing left would be to fight to the death. With his current strength and means, it would not be difficult for him to kill Lu Shanshin. However, he wanted to know how the Yushu Temple knew about the existence of the Sky Measuring Ruler and how they detoxified the poison that even he, who was proficient in poison cultivation, could not detoxify. After hearing Yu Haoran's request, Faling first took a risk to use his divine thoughts to check the 100 Qi Peak. After confirming that the device spirit of the Sky Measuring Ruler had not really awakened, he nodded in agreement and exhorted. Yu Haoran, the moment the possession technique is performed, immediately use the Law of Time Scars. Got it. Yu Haoran nodded to show that he understood. Then, he looked up at Lu Shanshin and said with a hint of sarcasm in his eyes, Lu Shanshin, your real purpose is to steal the Sky Measuring Ruler of the 100 Qi Gate, the Sky Measuring Ruler that has reached the peak of the supreme Great Martial Emperor realm. When Yu Haoran pointed out that the 100 Qi Gate actually had a peak of the supreme Great Martial Emperor realm magic weapon, Lai Yin, Gao Wanping, and the other elders could not help but look at each other and see the shock and doubt in each other's eyes. Boy, it seems that we have all underestimated you. Lu Shanshin's face flashed with surprise, but soon the surprise was replaced by a gloomy look. Lu Shanshin's body shook slightly. Originally, he was only at the peak of the 3rd grade Martial Emperor realm, but his aura soon broke through the Martial Saint realm and finally stopped at the peak of the 9th grade Martial Saint realm. Lu Shanshin, with the Yushu Temple spies all over the Tianxin continent, you should know the strength that I, Yu Haoran, showed when I left the Twin Bull Mountain. Seeing that Lu Shanshin, who was only at the peak of the 9th grade Martial Saint realm, was so confident, Yu Haoran was a little confused and reminded him. That's right. While nodding to confirm Yu Haoran's strength, Lu Shanshin waved in the direction of the 100 Qi Gate. Then, the whole 100 Qi Peak suddenly shook violently. Then, he said to Yu Haoran with a proud face, What if I have the help of this magic weapon? Accompanied by the violent shaking of the peak, countless dust flew in all directions, and a large number of boulders rolled down. Fortunately, when he forced Zhao Ji to betray the sect, in order to prevent the existence of the Sky Measuring Ruler from being exposed, he had driven away all the disciples of Zhao Ji's faction in advance. There were no living creatures on the 100 Qi Peak, so there were no casualties. Chapter 1182. Above Qingyan Peak. Humph! Yu Haoran could not help but snort when he saw the terrifying aura pressing down on him, trying to force him to land on the top of Qingyan Peak and kneel down. Then, when he was about to use the secret method of overdrawing the bloodline of the ancestral wizard to increase his strength against the terrifying aura, Faling suddenly sighed and said in his mind, Yu Haoran, let me do it. Faling, aren't you afraid of being exposed? Yu Haoran asked in confusion. We have to face it sooner or later, so it's better to face it now, Faling said with a hint of understanding as he looked at the Sky Measuring Ruler slowly revealing its body. Have you thought it through? Yu Haoran asked with a slight tremble in his heart. The Xian Yuan sword has chosen its master, and the yellow saber is about to devour its master. How can I, Thowling, not protect my master? Thowling said domineeringly, as his understanding was replaced by a firm look. I'll leave everything to you. Seeing that Thowling had finally gotten rid of his reincarnation and had been cautious, Yuhauran handed over control of his body with a smile. After taking control of his body in an instant, a powerful aura that surpassed the martial venerable realm directly shattered the terrifying aura. Thowling looked coldly at Lu Shanshin. The sudden change in Yuhauran's aura and momentum made Lu Shanshin's face change. He immediately turned and flew toward the sky-measuring ruler. The pagoda spirit did not stop him. Instead, it walked slowly to the heaven-measuring ruler despite the terrifying aura it emitted. Little ruler, since you've already woken up, why are you still pretending to be asleep in front of me? Thowling stopped 100 meters away from the sky-measuring ruler and sneered sarcastically. Junior sky-measuring ruler greets Senior Thowling. Faced with Thowling's sarcasm, the sky-measuring ruler slowly withdrew its terrifying aura and quickly shrank its body, which was nearly 10,000 meters long, to finally become a white jade ruler about 1.5 meters long. Above the white jade ruler, an old man in a white robe, who looked to be in his 70s and had a benevolent countenance, slowly condensed. Looking at Yuhauran, who had a sneer on his face, the old man said respectfully. Lu Shanshin, who was floating beside the sky-measuring ruler, looked extremely shocked. This was because he had not expected that the weapon spirit of the heaven-measuring ruler, which had reached the peak of the supreme great emperor realm and possessed the power to destroy the world, would be so respectful towards Yuhauran. However, from the way Yuhauran addressed him, Lu Shanshin vaguely guessed a possibility. It was the secret that allowed Yuhauran to make progress in martial arts and all kinds of auxiliary cultivation methods in such a short time. Thinking of this, the shock in Lu Shanshin's heart was replaced by joy. Looking at the body temporarily controlled by Thowling, his eyes revealed a look of greed. Little ruler, more than a year ago, after I found out that your original body, the heaven-measuring ruler, was being corroded by poison, I have been thinking of a way to neutralize the poison. Seeing that the weapon spirit's attitude was as respectful as before, Thowling explained gently. But what I didn't expect was that someone had actually neutralized the poison in your original body one step ahead of me. Senior, thank you for always thinking of me. Hearing Thowling's explanation, the weapon spirit of the heaven-measuring ruler withdrew his respectful expression and thanked him indifferently. Although it had been in a deep sleep, the weapon spirit of the heaven-measuring ruler, as an existence that had almost broken through to the divine artifact level, had actually sensed Thowling's aura long ago, and had taken the risk of separating a trace of divine, thought to secretly pay attention to Thowling's every move. For more than a year, Thowling had been doing his best to help the human he had possessed. He had never really thought about how to neutralize the threat of the poison for himself, which made the weapon spirit of the heaven-measuring ruler very sad and disappointed. This was also the real reason why he had used his terrifying momentum to force Yuhauran to kneel down and pretended to be in a deep sleep, unwilling to face Thowling directly. After the respectful indifference, Thowling could vaguely guess the thoughts of the weapon spirit of the heaven-measuring ruler. In this regard, he neither cared nor had any intention of explaining. He just raised his hand and pointed at Lu Shanshin and asked with the same indifferent attitude, Shao Qi, if I kill him, will you stop me? Senior, when my original body was attacked by the poison, I, Shao Qi, once swore that I would recognize whoever could neutralize the threat of the poison as my master. Although the weapon spirit of the heaven-measuring ruler did not directly answer Thowling's question, through the oath of recognition, it had already expressed its attitude that it would definitely stop him. Shao Qi, although you now maintain the strength of the peak of the 9th stage of the Emperor Realm, and my strength has been reduced to the 3rd stage of the Emperor Wu Realm, do you believe that I can still defeat and even destroy your original body? In the face of the indirect declaration of the weapon spirit of the heaven-measuring ruler, Thowling slowly mobilized the power of the original body of the victor and coldly threatened. Senior, as you have existed since the beginning of the world, Shao-Chi believes that I am no match for you. Nodding in agreement with Thowling's threat, the weapon spirit of the heaven-measuring ruler did not show the slightest panic as it spoke. But if I take him away, I am afraid that you will not be able to keep Shao-Chi. Taking a step forward, Thowling reminded with a cold smile. Shao-Chi, could it be that you've forgotten my other identity? After hearing Thowling's reminder, the weapon spirit of the heaven-measuring ruler's face changed slightly. It immediately returned to its original body of nearly 10,000 meters, and then fiercely slammed into the void. Boom! Accompanied by a deafening roar, the heaven-measuring ruler was directly forced back to its original place by the invisible void, and the weapon spirit that had integrated into the original body was also forced to leave the original body because of the strong shock. Thowling, how dare you use the original body of the victor to seal the void? The weapon spirit of the heaven-measuring ruler pointed angrily. Shao-Chi, it seems that you have changed. Now you are no longer as kind and benevolent as before, only tyrannical and arrogant. Hearing the weapon spirit of the heaven-measuring ruler directly call his name, Thowling could not help but comment with disappointment. Whether in the past or now, kindness and benevolence will always be hurt. Only ruthlessness is the real way to survive. After refuting Thowling's comment, the weapon spirit of the heaven-measuring ruler threatened fiercely. Thowling, for the sake of our previous friendship, immediately release the seal of the void. Otherwise, I can also make you fall into a deep sleep again. Shao-Chi, you can leave. Pointing at Lu Shanshin, whose face was sometimes gloomy and sometimes complacent, Thowling said. But he must stay. Thowling, don't force me. Otherwise, don't blame me for not taking into account our previous friendship. The weapon spirit that had integrated back into the original body, while activating the strength of the peak of the martial emperor realm, threatened with murderous intent. In the sea of consciousness, when he heard that the weapon spirit of the heaven-measuring ruler had the ability to make Thowling fall into a deep sleep again, Yu Haoran could not help but change his expression. Chapter 1183. 100 Qi Gate. He summoned the second doppelganger that was cultivating in the victor. His own consciousness temporarily took control of the second doppelganger's body and directly entered the victor. Then Yu Haoran took out 36 poisonous herbs from the storage ring and the victor. He then used the elixir condensation technique to quickly refine 9 poisonous pills. After returning control of the body to the second doppelganger, Yu Haoran reminded Thowling. Thowling, you don't need to use the power of the victor. You just need to integrate this poisonous pill into the body of the sky-measuring ruler, and it will fall into a deep sleep again. Yu Haoran, will it hurt the device spirit of the sky-measuring ruler? Thowling asked worriedly. After getting along with him for nearly 2 years, Thowling had seen Yu Haoran's extraordinary means of poison. He also knew very well how powerful the poisonous pills refined by him were. Although the aggressive attitude of the device spirit of the sky-measuring ruler was too irritating, Thowling did not really want to hurt the device spirit of the sky-measuring ruler due to their tens of thousands of years of history and his own wrongdoings. Thowling, don't worry. Since I refined the poisonous pill myself, I have a way to detoxify it. I guarantee that the device spirit of the sky-measuring ruler will not be harmed in any way, Yu Haoran assured him. Okay. After receiving Yu Haoran's assurance, Thowling quietly took the poisonous pill. He directly mobilized 1% of the power of the victor and took a step forward. It seemed like a casual step, but it allowed him to cross the barrier of time and space and directly appear in front of the sky-measuring ruler. He shattered the poisonous pill with the power of his divine soul and gently slapped it into the body of the sky-measuring ruler. Thowling, you forced me to do this. Although Thowling's gentle slap did not hurt the device spirit at all, in the eyes of the device spirit of the sky-measuring ruler, he was obviously humiliating and showing off. He was humiliating himself to be as vulnerable as before, to show off his Thowling's omnipotence and power. Therefore, after the weapon spirit of the heaven-measuring ruler roared, it quickly fused into its body and began to activate all of the ruler's power. When the power of the heaven-measuring ruler caused the void around the 100 chi gate to tear apart, the originally upright heaven-measuring ruler suddenly collapsed and directly smashed towards the Thaling gate. At the same time, a soft shout came from the heaven-measuring ruler. So close, yet so far. Little Chi, you're crazy. You're actually using the power of a law martial technique. When Thaling saw that the artifact spirit had used the full power of the heaven-measuring ruler to display the law martial technique that he had only barely mastered after personally teaching the artifact spirit, he could not help but yell angrily. Since he didn't know when Yu Haoran's poison pill would take effect, and he was well aware of the terrifying power of so close, yet worlds apart, Thaling could only mobilize more of his victor's power, intending to use an even stronger law martial technique. However, just as the heaven-measuring ruler, which contained the law martial technique, was about to smash Thaling's head, a muffled sound of pain suddenly came from the inside of the heaven-measuring ruler. Along with the sound of pain, the terrifying power of the heaven-measuring ruler was quickly withdrawn. Thaling, you poisoned me. After the artifact spirit used the power withdrawn from its body to temporarily suppress the invasion of the poison, the artifact spirit accused Thaling angrily. Little Chi, listen to me, Thaling wanted to tell the artifact spirit about his good intentions of using the poison, but he was interrupted by the artifact spirit's next move. Benefactor, please help me remove the poison in my body, and then I'll use the law martial technique to send you out of here. Okay. After speculating the true secret of Yu Haoran's power, Lu Shanshin was no longer as nervous as before about whether the artifact spirit of the heaven-measuring ruler was dead or alive. However, based on the artifact spirit's action of using its body to attack the void, he knew that the space to leave the 100 chi gate had been sealed by the artifact spirit that controlled Yu Haoran's body. If he wanted to successfully transmit Yu Haoran's secret back to the Yushu Temple, he had to rely on the artifact spirit of the heaven-measuring ruler. Therefore, after hearing the artifact spirit's request for help, Lu Shanshin instantly appeared beside the heaven-measuring ruler and used his divine thoughts to analyze the structure of the poison. Yu Haoran, it seems that Lu is also a poison expert. He can't remove the poison you refined, can he? Thaling asked worriedly when he saw the confident smile on Lu Shanshin's face as he inspected the poison in the heaven-measuring ruler. Pagoda spirit, unless it's the poison emperor who has broken through to the emperor realm in the poison Dao, no one in the entire Tianxian continent will be able to remove the poison pills I have refined. Yu Haoran said confidently, because the poison pill he refined just now was a brand new poison that he had created by using 49 different recipes before he was forced to enter the demon god's ancient tomb. At that time, he had refined 3 pills and then tested them on an expert at the peak of the 7th grade martial saint realm and a strange beast at the peak of the 4th grade 9th grade. He knew that the poison contained in the poison pill he had created could definitely be ranked in the top 20 of the 100 poisons list in the Tianxian continent. After receiving Yu Haoran's guarantee, Thaling was slightly relieved. When he saw Lu Shanshin frowning, Thaling was really relieved. Artifact Spirit, I'm really sorry. This is a brand new poison, and I can't remove it in a short time. After nearly 10 minutes of examination, Lu Shanshin withdrew his divine thoughts and took a few steps back. Then he shook his head and said, Thaling, do you really want me to die? Even Lu Shanshin, an expert in detoxification, could not remove the poison just now. The artifact spirit of the sky-measuring ruler, whose heart was dead, gradually entered a state of madness and vaguely had an impulse to self-destruct. Oh no, when Lu Shanshin was examining the poison just now, he must have used a special method to change the toxicity of the poison, causing the artifact spirit of the sky-measuring ruler to fall into madness. Yu Haoran knew very well what kind of effect the poison pill he had refined would have. Therefore, when he saw that the artifact spirit of the sky-measuring ruler was not in a good condition, he could not help but remind it with a sudden change of expression. Little ruler, The poison I used just now will only make you fall into a deep sleep. It will not hurt you at all. You should calm down quickly." After hearing Yu Haoran's reminder, Faling immediately used a secret method that could be used to calm the artifact spirit, hoping to wake up the crazy artifact spirit. Unfortunately, in the face of Faling's secret method, the artifact spirit of the sky-measuring ruler still became more and more crazy. "Faling, let me solve the problem of the artifact spirit of the sky-measuring ruler." Seeing that the secret method used by Faling did not work, Yu Haoran immediately ordered, "Okay." Knowing that Yu Haoran had many means and might be able to solve the problem of the sky-measuring ruler, Faling handed over the control of his physical body without hesitation. Traces of time. Chapter 1184. 100 Qi Gate. Faling, take a detailed look at all of Lu Shanxin's life experiences. He needed to see what method Lu Shanxin had used just now to change the characteristics of the poison contained in the poisonous pill he had refined and to come up with a solution in time. Therefore, he did not have too much energy to pay attention to other experiences in Lu Shanxin's life for the time being, including the plan of the master of the underground palace, how to remove the original poison in the sky-measuring ruler, and so on. "Yu Haoran, I have a secret method that can replicate all of Lu Shanxin's life experiences." After hearing Yu Haoran's instructions, Faling immediately told him the method to deal with the sky-measuring ruler's weapon spirit without worry. Lilac pollen. When he saw Lu Shanxin use a spiritual force to check the toxicity of the poison and quietly add a kind of pollen with very little toxicity, Yu Haoran's eyes flashed with a trace of shock. In just 10 minutes, he could distinguish the attribute of the poison and use the lilac pollen to change part of the poison's power. He was extremely shocked by Lu Shanxin's poison Dao cultivation. He felt a trace of admiration and horror for Lu Shanxin's poison using methods and skills. Fortunately, he had just used the nomological martial technique with a mark of time to eliminate Lu Shanxin, whose alchemy ability was not inferior to his own. Otherwise, his loved ones could be in danger at any time. After taking a deep breath and adjusting the emotional changes caused by Lu Shanxin, Yu Haoran began to look for ways to remove the poison that had undergone a fundamental change in toxicity. The lilac pollen itself contained very little toxicity and would not pose any danger to living beings. This also meant that the lilac pollen was just a primer to change the toxicity of the poison. Then, as long as he removed or reduced the power of the primer, the toxicity of the poison would return to normal. Thinking of this, Yu Haoran immediately thought of a flower that was between a spiritual flower and an ordinary flower. It was the 3-leaf flower. He turned his head and looked at a flower with 3 petals on a branch in the garden of the Hidden Moon Pavilion. He reached out and sucked, and the 3-leaf flower instantly appeared in his hand. After shattering the petals of the 3-leaf flower with his essence energy, he directly slapped the pollen into the body of the sky-measuring ruler. The artifact spirit, who was about to reach the limit of madness and was about to detonate its body, quickly calmed down and slowly dispersed the energy of its body that had just been activated. "Little ruler, do you know how you were poisoned?" Faling asked excitedly when he saw that the heaven-measuring ruler had completely calmed down. "Weren't you the one who poisoned me just now?" The artifact spirit mocked coldly. "Little Qi, the reason I poisoned you just now was to calm you down. I had no intention of harming you at all." Seeing that the spirit of the sky-measuring ruler was still full of hatred towards him, Faling hurriedly explained for himself. Then, he continued to ask, "I was asking about the poison you were afflicted with in the past." "I don't know." The artifact spirit did not forgive Faling's act of poisoning just because of his explanation. His tone was still indifferent as he replied, "Shaoqi, the person who poisoned you came from one of the top 7 sects in the profound sky continent, the Yushu Temple." The agitated Faling directly left the space of Yu Haoran's sea of consciousness. Then, he pointed at Lu Shanxin, who had just been decomposed and fell among the gravel, and shouted excitedly, "And Lu Shanxin, who detoxified the poison you were afflicted with, is also from the Yushu Temple. After hearing Thaling's agitated explanation, the body of the sky-measuring ruler trembled slightly. Then it calmed down and said in a cold tone, "So what? You?" Facing the artifact spirit's ungrateful behavior, Thaling was so angry that he did not know what to say. "Thaling, go back to the Sea of Consciousness first." After successfully resolving the crisis of the artifact spirit's self-detonation, Yu Haoran began to refine the detoxification pills with the help of the nihility pill condensation technique. When the detoxification pills were successfully refined, Thaling was so angry that he did not know what to say. After taking back the 9 detoxification pills floating in the air, Yu Haoran ordered Thaling. After Thaling returned to the Sea of Consciousness, Yu Haoran flicked one of the detoxification pills directly to the sky-measuring ruler and said coldly, "This detoxification pill can detoxify the poison you were afflicted with just now." After the artifact spirit of the sky-measuring ruler emerged and used the detoxification pill to detoxify the poison in its body, Yu Haoran still said coldly, "Thaling has just removed the seal of the void. You can leave now. Don't you want me to recognize you as my master?" Seeing Yu Haoran actively driving him away, the artifact spirit asked in confusion, "Humph." Glancing at the sky-measuring ruler disdainfully, Yu Haoran turned and flew directly to the Qingyun Peak, leaving behind a sentence that almost made the sky-measuring ruler furious. "Artifact spirit of the sky-measuring ruler, don't take yourself too seriously. In the eyes of Yu Haoran, your real value is actually no different from an ordinary iron. If it weren't for the deep relationship between you and Thaling, I wouldn't be bothered to talk to you now. Boy, you'll regret it sooner or later." Looking at Yu Haoran's back, the artifact spirit floating on the sky-measuring ruler gnashed his teeth and cursed. "I won't see you off," Yu Haoran said without looking back. "Just you wait." After the angry artifact spirit merged into its body, it directly soared into the sky and then disappeared into the 100 Qi Gate. "Yu Haoran, are you really willing to let the sky-measuring ruler leave?" Watching the sky-measuring ruler turn into a white light and completely disappear from sight, Thaling asked in confusion. "Yes." Nodding, Yu Haoran calmly explained. "A celestial artifact, like the sky-measuring ruler, doesn't have strong offensive power, nor is it suitable for defense. It's really not very useful. There's no difference whether it's there or not." Although he explained with a calm expression, Thaling could feel a trace of displeasure and unwillingness in Yu Haoran's tone, so he didn't continue to ask. Slowly landing in front of Chu Zhongyu and the others, Yu Haoran found that in addition to excitement in their eyes, there was more awe when facing an expert. Originally, he had a bellyful of words in his heart, but they instantly disappeared without a trace. Yu Haoran instructed as he took out the wooden box containing the Buddha heart fruit from his storage ring and handed it to Chu Zhongyu. "Eldest senior brother, when Master returns to Qingyun Peak, please give the wooden box to him." Chu Zhongyu didn't know if he should call Yu Haoran Junior Brother, Prince Consort, or Grandmaster Yu, so he could only nod and silently take the wooden box. "Second senior brother, this jade slip records the opportunity that I once promised you." Taking out a blank jade slip from his storage ring, he described in detail the detailed route to the cave residence left behind by the martial sage expert who achieved his Tao through cooking and then handed it to Lu Guangwei. "9 Junior Brother, this..." Chapter 1185. The 100 Qi Gate, Qingyun Peak. Shaking his head, Yu Haoran signaled Lu Guangwei not to say anything. Then, he looked at Gong Sun Yuding. "Little junior sister, the comfortable environment of Qingyun Peak is not suitable for you. Only when you leave Qingyun Peak, the 100 Qi Gate, and the protection of the sect can you use your physique and talent." Knowing that Yu Haoran was guiding her cultivation, Gong Sun Yuding quickly asked, "Ninth senior brother, where should I go next?" Yu Haoran just shook his head with a smile and did not give any opinion. Then, he took out 9 invitations from his storage ring and handed them to Chu Zhongyu. "Eldest senior brother, on September 29th, which is 12 days later, I will marry Ling Fei in Xianyang City. If you have time, You can go to the wedding. Ninth junior brother, congratulations. Chu Zhongyu immediately congratulated him after receiving the invitations. Yu Haoran nodded and thanked him. Then, he rose into the air and planned to leave Qingyun Peak and go straight to the depths of the mountain where the 100 Qi Gate was located. But at this moment, the thawing in his sea of consciousness suddenly reminded him. Yu Haoran, that little girl Kong Yung-ah, was poisoned by Lu Shanxin. She is now locked up in a courtyard in the Hall of Merits. His body suddenly stopped, and he immediately rushed to the Hall of Merits. When Yu Haoran saw the symbolic palace of the Hall of Merit, a nameless rage surged within him, causing him to instantly take out his purple staff. Everyone in the Hall of Merits, come out immediately. Due to the terrifying aura of the heaven-measuring ruler, dozens of disciples were forced to kneel in the hall. After hearing Yu Haoran's roar, they immediately got up and left the hall. Boom! Accompanied by a loud bang, the Hall of Merit that had been erected at the 100 Qi Gate for 1,000 years was completely turned into a pile of ruins under the bombardment of the Violet Rod. In the future, no matter who becomes the Sect Master, and no matter who becomes the Hall Master of the Achievement Hall, this hall is not allowed to be built, and this place is not allowed to be cleaned. Floating above the ruins, Yu Haoran ordered coldly. Yes, Vice Sect Leader. After hearing Yu Haoran's order, the Achievement Hall's disciples and deacons, as well as Lai Yin and the elders who had just arrived, immediately obeyed respectfully. Glancing at Gao Wanping, who was standing beside Lai Yin, Yu Haoran suddenly thought of Ouyang Haoyu, who had married Qin Lingfei in his previous life. He immediately released a powerful divine sense and swept through the entire law enforcement peak. When he discovered the unconscious Ouyang Haoyu in the secret room of the law enforcement peak, Yu Haoran looked at Gao Wanping with a cold gaze. However, a sentence thawing in his sea of consciousness made him quickly withdraw the cold gaze in his eyes. Then, he went straight to Kong Yung-ah's courtyard. Yu Haoran, although the transformation of Gao Wanping's and Ouyang Haoyu's spirits will no longer have any effect on you, it will allow Jiang Jingya to break through to the martial sage realm in a short period of time. Quickly landing in the courtyard, Yu Haoran scanned all the rooms in the courtyard with his divine sense. In a flash, he entered Kong Yung-ah's room. Walking to the side of Kong Yung-ah's bed, Yu Haoran softly called out as he looked at the lovely person whose eyes were filled with tears. Junior Marshall's sister Jiang. Hearing the sound of the door opening, Kong Yung-ah originally thought that Lu Shanxin had returned. Just as she was despairingly waiting for her virginity to be taken away by the person she respected and hated, she suddenly heard the voice of her dreams. She immediately opened her eyes, and the face of the person she had yearned for day and night immediately came into view. At this moment, she wanted to directly throw herself into Yu Haoran's arms. At this moment, she wanted to emotionally call out Yu Haoran's name. However, with her body poisoned by Lu Shanxin's poison pill, she could not do anything and could not say anything. She could only cry anxiously. Junior Marshall's sister Jiang, don't be afraid. Senior Marshall brother is here to protect you. Seeing the tears in Kong Yung-ah's eyes, Yu Haoran hurriedly comforted her. Yu Haoran, you silly boy. Hurry up and detoxify Jiang Lass. Seeing that Yu Haoran only knew how to comfort Kong Yung-ah, but did not know why she was crying, Thaling jokingly reminded him. After hearing Thaling's reminder, Yu Haoran immediately checked Kong Yung-ah's body and found that she had only been poisoned by a poison called soft cartilage. He took out an antidote pill from his storage ring and helped Kong Yung-ah consume it. After only 3 seconds, Kong Yung-ah, who had completely recovered, directly threw herself into Yu Haoran's arms and cried bitterly. Yu Shixiang, Xiao Feng is dead. Xiao Feng was poisoned to death by Lu Shanxin. Hearing Kong Yung-ah mention Xiao Feng, Yu Haoran only remembered Wind-tailed Fox, who had changed her body constitution and always protected her safety. Junior Jiang, where is Xiao Feng's body? After hearing Kong Yung-ah mention how Wind-tailed Fox died, Yu Haoran immediately asked. After all, Wind-tailed Fox's body contained the purest bloodline of the 9-tailed celestial fox, one of the 9 great ancient mythical beast kings. It would not be so easily poisoned to death. Lu Shanxin threw the body away. Kong Yung-ah, who did not leave Yu Haoran's arms, replied while crying. Pagoda's spirit. Yu Haoran immediately called out to the pagoda's spirit in his sea of consciousness. After all, he had read Lu Shanxin's life in detail and definitely knew where he threw Wind-tailed Fox's body. After carefully recalling Lu Shanxin's life and finding the location where he threw Wind-tailed Fox's body, Thowling immediately used his divine telekinesis to retrieve Wind-tailed Fox's body. Reaching out to pat Kong Yung-ah's shoulder, Yu Haoran gently reminded her, "Junior Jiang, let me check Wind-tailed Fox's body." After hearing Yu Haoran's reminder, Kong Yung-ah reluctantly left his arms. But when she saw a Wind-tailed Fox lying on the table, she immediately rushed to Wind-tailed Fox's body. The tears that she had stopped with much difficulty once again dripped down. Yu Haoran, who also walked to Wind-tailed Fox's body, first used his divine telekinesis to check the body. He did not find any signs of poisoning. Then he took out a drop of black blood from Wind-tailed Fox's little paw and carefully identified the energy in the black blood. Blood-severing pill. After discovering that the pure blood essence of the ancient 9-tailed celestial fox had disappeared from the black blood, Yu Haoran muttered to himself with a serious expression, "Yu Shi Xiang, what is the blood-severing pill?" After hearing Yu Haoran's muttering, Kong Yung-ah thought carefully and realized that she had never heard of the name of this pill before, so she quickly asked, "It's a special pill that is between a poison pill and a spiritual pill." Yu Haoran replied to Kong Yung-ah's question while thinking of a way to neutralize the effects of the blood-severing pill in Wind-tailed Fox's body. If a person with an ordinary body like mine were to consume it, the blood-severing pill would purify the impurities in the blood and increase the potential and strength. Chapter 1186. Inside the 100 Qi Gate. Junior Jiang. The blood-severing pill will forcefully purify the pure bloodline of the ancestral 9-tailed fox in Little Wind's body, and will also severely damage its soul. After explaining to this point, Yu Haoran's eyes suddenly lit up. A medicinal pill that could resurrect the Wind-tailed fox and let it achieve bloodline transformation appeared in his mind. The blood recovery pill was an ordinary pill that could replenish blood. It was suitable for ordinary warriors to stop bleeding and quickly replenish the blood in their body when they were injured. He quickly checked the storage ring and Victor's collection with his mind. Finally, he found the 7 ordinary herbs needed to refine the blood recovery pill in the Victor. As a low-level pill suitable for warriors below the level of martial master, it was refined using the heaven-defying void pill condensation technique. It could be said that using an anti-aircraft gun to kill a mosquito was like using a sledgehammer to crack a nut. Therefore, Yu Haoran chose to skip the incubation process after the condensation process and the incubation process after the separation process. In the end, he succeeded in refining 9 pills. Yu Shi Xiang, isn't this a grade 8 blood recovery pill? Seeing that Yu Haoran had only refined ordinary blood recovery pills with his mysterious alchemy technique, Kong Yung-ah could not understand why he did this. Junior Jiang, in the art of alchemy, the more famous the pill, the better it is, and the higher the grade, the stronger it is. In response to Kong Yung-ah's questioning, Yu Haoran fed one of the blood recovery pills into Wind-tailed Fox's body and used his Yuan Li to help it dissolve. Only those that are truly suitable are the best. As the blood recovery pill that was fed into Wind-tailed Fox's body began to take effect, its yellowish hair gradually regained its luster, and the cold corpse slowly regained its temperature. As for Kong Yung-ah, who had signed a contract with Wind-tailed Fox, she felt it even more clearly. Raising her head to look at Yu Haoran, Kong Yung-ah was both extremely excited and somewhat puzzled as she asked, "Yu Shi Xiang, how do you know that Xiao Feng is not truly dead?" Because Wind-tailed Fox had been poisoned to death by Lu Shanxin for more than 3 hours. Not only had her body cooled down, the contract with her soul had also disappeared. This was enough to prove that the wind-tailed fox was completely dead. Junior sister Jiang, do you still remember the contract you signed with wind-tailed fox in the Blue Moon secret realm? Yu Haoran asked with a smile while paying attention to wind-tailed fox, whose vitality was slowly returning. Symbiotic contract. Wind-tailed fox's sudden death, and the despair that her virginity could be taken away by Lu Shanxin at any time, caused Kong Yunga's mind to be in a mess, causing her to not even think about the special contract between her and wind-tailed fox. Symbiotic contract, life and death together. As long as one party truly dies, then the other party of the contract will also die immediately. Shifting his gaze from Kong Yunga to wind-tailed fox, Yu Haoran was vaguely worried about the potential danger of the symbiotic contract to Kong Yunga and could not help but ask for help from Thaling in his sea of consciousness. Yu Haoran, the symbiotic contract is the highest level of contract among the rules. Even if the heavenly Tao personally intervened, it would not be able to break the symbiotic contract between Jiang Girl and wind-tailed fox. In response to Yu Haoran's request for help, Thaling expressed that he was also unable to help. In response, Yu Haoran was disappointed and began to think about how to better ensure the safety of Kong Yunga and wind-tailed fox. Of course, the main thing was to increase wind-tailed fox's strength. This was because Thaling had already provided a solution to increase Kong Yunga's strength. Squeak, squeak. As the vitality returned to a certain level, wind-tailed fox slowly opened its eyes. After seeing Kong Yunga with tears in her eyes, wind-tailed fox immediately cried out in excitement. Little wind. Kong Yunga hugged wind-tailed fox tightly in her arms and cried out in excitement and heartache. Squeak, squeak. Wind-tailed fox, who came back from the dead, was also very excited and told Kong Yunga its feelings at this moment. Looking at the sincere relationship between Kong Yunga and wind-tailed fox, Yu Haoran completely extinguished the idea of letting them break the symbiotic contract and also found a way to increase wind-tailed fox's strength. However, when he would help wind-tailed fox to increase its strength, it would depend on his own schedule after the Battle of the Five Territories. Yu Haoran took out an invitation to his and Qin Lingfei's wedding and quietly placed it on the table. Then, he quietly left the room and went straight to the law enforcement peak. Standing quietly in front of the stone door of the law enforcement peak's secret room, Yu Haoran observed Gao Wanping, who was using the Devil Dao's secret technique and did not take the risk to attack. Instead, he asked Thaling how he could use the energy transferred by Gao Wanping and Ouyang Haoyu to help Kong Yunga improve her cultivation and strength. Yu Haoran leave. However, to his surprise, the tower spirit suddenly suggested to leave when he asked for help. Why? Yu Haoran was both puzzled and angry as he questioned. After all, the idea of using the energy transferred by Gao Wanping and Ouyang Haoyu's soul to improve Kong Yunga's cultivation and strength was brought up by Thaling. The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the sparrow behind. Facing Yu Haoran's unhappy questioning, Thaling explained with a dignified expression. Gao Wanping thinks that he can replace everything of Ouyang Haoyu, but he doesn't know that the sparrow hidden in Ouyang Haoyu's sea of consciousness wants to use this opportunity to seize everything that the two of them have. Who? Hearing that there was an old monster hidden in Ouyang Haoyu's sea of consciousness, Yu Haoran immediately asked nervously. A devil who is between good and evil, and whose cultivation has reached the third tribulation quasi, Emperor Wu's level. Thaling said in a dignified tone. I see. Hearing that the old monster hidden in Ouyang Haoyu's sea of consciousness was a powerful expert who had reached the third tribulation quasi, Emperor Wu's level, Yu Haoran finally understood why Gao Wanping's performance in his previous life was so amazing, and why even Emperor Qin was willing to marry Qin Lingfei to him. After all, whether it was Gao Wanping or Ouyang Haoyu, they could only be considered as outstanding top geniuses. Even if they used the Devil Pass secret method to fuse and improve their own potential, they could only reach the level of a peerless genius at most. They could not be compared to top geniuses like the Sword Without Trace and Lin Mingyao. But the result, whether it was the speed of cultivation improvement or the strength that he displayed, Gao Wanping was not inferior to the Sword Without Trace and Lin Mingyao. This could be said that the person who replaced Ouyang Haoyu was the third tribulation quasi, Emperor Wu, powerful expert who had been hiding in his sea of consciousness all this time. With Thaling's current state, he was still not a match for the third tribulation quasi, Emperor Wu, powerful expert, so he could only choose to leave for the time being. However, when the powerful expert swallowed and replaced Ouyang Haoyu, limited by Ouyang Haoyu's own cultivation, the power that the third tribulation quasi, Emperor Wu, could display would be affected. Chapter 1187. Deep in the mountains, on the cliff. Looking at the bottomless cliff in front of him, Yu Haoran's eyes revealed a trace of nostalgia and worry. Back then, he was able to discover the primeval forest hidden in the depths of the mountains and successfully obtain the living soil that could assist in the cultivation of the Qi into Trinity, as well as the divine lotus that could improve one's potential. It was all thanks to the strange black rat that could suppress the black bear's bloodline. Based on the black rat's affection and reluctance to leave him at that time, it should not have left for such a long time. This made him vaguely feel that the black rat might have met with an accident. Therefore, this time when he returned to the primeval forest, other than to collect some medicinal herbs of sufficient age to refine some elixirs that could be returned as a gift, his main purpose was to find the black rat. In the past, his cultivation was too low, and he had to use the method of condensing the dragon to safely reach the bottom of the cliff. But now, in a flash, he jumped down the cliff and appeared at the bottom of the cliff. Looking at the primeval forest in front of him that had not changed much, Yu Haoran directly released a powerful divine thought. While looking for medicinal herbs of sufficient age, he ordered Thaling to use an even more powerful divine thought to find the whereabouts of the black rat. 13,000 years old purple-leaved orchid. Just as he spread out his divine thought, less than a kilometer away, he found a stalk of purple-leaved orchid that could be used to refine the foundation establishment elixir. In a flash, he appeared in front of the purple-leaved orchid, carefully uprooted it, and put it into a wooden box that he had prepared beforehand. Yu Haoran kept the wooden box in his storage ring and continued to use his divine thought to search. 18,000 years old purple monkey flower. 7,500 years old candlelight grass. 9,300 years old evergreen flower. In less than an hour, less than 1/5 of the primeval forest had been searched. Yu Haoran had found 13 types of herbs that were more than 10,000 years old and 21 types of herbs that were more than 5,000 years old. Yu Haoran, I used my divine thought to search 3 times just now, but I did not find any trace of the black rat. Yu Haoran had just collected a 20,000-year-old Ganoderma spirit grass when the pagoda spirit reminded him in his sea of consciousness. Could it be, as Black Bear said, that the black rat has left the mountain range and gone out to find its own opportunity? Thaling Emperor Wu's divine sense could easily cover the entire primeval forest. If the black rat had stayed in the primeval forest, it would not have been able to avoid the detection of Thaling's spiritual sense. In the end, it was just as He Xiong had said when he had broken through to the 4th-level Saint Realm. He Xiong had gone out to search for his own opportunity. Yu Haoran secretly let out a sigh of relief as he looked for his own opportunity, and at the same time, put all his energy into collecting the spiritual herbs. In a cave at the edge of a primeval forest, the black rat that Yu Haoran had been searching for was currently struggling in pain. The originally pitch-black hair had all fallen off, and eerie iron chains appeared on the blood-stained skin from time to time. Every time the chains vaguely appeared, the black rat would show unbearable pain and begin to struggle with all its might. Every time the iron chains disappeared into its body, the black rat would return to normal, but its small eyes would show its unwillingness. After struggling back and forth for nearly 2 hours, The black rat finally gave up on its desperate struggle and allowed the iron chains to continue to disappear into its body. The blood on the black rat, which no longer resisted the iron chains, quickly dried up and was quickly squeezed out by the new black hair, allowing it to return to its previous form. Closing its small eyes, the black rat recovered the demonic power and soul power it had used to struggle free of the iron chains. When it was about to leave the cave, it unexpectedly felt a familiar aura and immediately retreated back into the cave. His small eyes were filled with anxiety and worry. Thowling, although there are no strange beasts or wild beasts running rampant in this primeval forest, and it can ensure the smooth growth of some spiritual herbs, the concentration of spiritual energy in this primeval forest doesn't seem to be enough to support the growth of these spiritual herbs for so long. Pointing a stalk of sage ginseng that was close to 100,000 years old, Yu Haoran's eyes were full of doubts. Yu Haoran, actually, when you and I first entered this primeval forest, I also had the same doubts in my heart. Hearing Yu Haoran begin to suspect that the primeval forest was not simple and strange, Thowling frowned and reminded him. So, when I was looking for the black rat's tracks, I checked from top to bottom 3 times and did not discover any secrets hidden in this forest. Thowling, just now my sixth sense told me that this primeval forest definitely hides a shocking secret. But our cultivation and strength are too low, and we are temporarily unable to discover the location of the secret. After hearing Thowling's reminder, which was also full of doubts, Yu Haoran closed his eyes and carefully sensed for a while, and his sixth sense suddenly gave him a very special hint. Great misfortune contained great fortune. Great misfortune contained within great fortune. That's true. After hearing Yu Haoran's reminder, Thowling nodded and agreed with a deep understanding. Yu Haoran, when your cultivation breaks through to the martial honorable realm, help me refine a kind of top healing pill and help my soul completely return to the peak state of Emperor Wu. At that time, we will return to this primeval forest and then work together to find the hidden secrets. Nodding, Yu Haoran carefully took away the purple Ganoderma that was close to 100,000 years old and then used his divine sense to check the primeval forest again. After confirming that there were not too many omissions, he sped up and hurried to the cliff of the primeval forest. After Yu Haoran had just left the primeval forest, the black rat that had quietly left the cave stretched out its short claws and patted its chest hard. But at this time, the entire primeval forest suddenly began to shake violently. As the primeval forest shook violently, the spiritual chi of heaven and earth that Yu Haoran had suspected to be thin began to increase by a few times, a dozen times, a dozen times, and even 100 times. Soon, the primeval forest was shrouded in dense spiritual fog, and the stream that had been used to fight for the divine lotus, because of the violent shaking of the primeval forest, slowly cracked in the middle, and a black stone tablet emerged from the crack. The front of the black stone tablet was densely engraved with many words. If one looked carefully, they would find that these densely engraved words were all the names of living beings. Laozi Yuan Shi, Tong Tian, Zhu Long, Ao Yin, Peng Yu, Sun Wudao, and other famous immortals and gods from the ancient, middle, and recent ancient times were listed at the top of the stone tablet. Chapter 1188. In the depths of the mountain range, in the primeval forest, on the back of the black stone tablet, there was a carving of a long, sharp blade. A blood blade with 9 drops of blood dripping from its tip. Under the blood blade, there was a shadow of a creature whose appearance and body could not be seen clearly. It was kneeling there, as if it was being punished by the blood blade. At the bottom of the black stone tablet, there were 9 long chains that extended directly to the edge of the primeval forest. There was a black rat with a fierce look in its eyes. Although there was a towering tree blocking its view, the black rat could still see the black stone tablet clearly. Looking at the name of the creature carved on the front of the black stone tablet, the black rat slammed its slender black tail on the ground. The 9 chains at the bottom of the black stone tablet immediately formed 9 strong suction forces, directly absorbing the thick spiritual fog that shrouded the entire primeval forest in an instant. As the thick spiritual fog was absorbed by the chains, the originally loose 9 chains suddenly tightened, then pulled the black stone tablet back into the crack slowly. At the same time, the crack in the spring gradually closed up. In less than a minute, the primeval forest that had been destroyed was restored to its original state. Looking up in the direction of the cliff, the black rat's small eyes revealed a look of anticipation and viciousness. After leaving the primeval forest, Howren was not in a hurry to leave the mountain range. Instead, he woke up the black bear that was sleeping in the beast pet space, then rushed to the cave that the black bear used to cultivate in. Landing in front of the cave that the black bear used to cultivate in, Howren did not enter the cave. Instead, he looked at a green rock about 100 meters away from the cave, his eyes revealing a look of reminiscence. You have to be responsible for it. Thinking of the words that the charming fox by Tong left before she left, Howren's face revealed a trace of gentleness. Then he spread out his powerful divine mind and began to search the entire mountain range where the 100 Chi Gate was located, looking for traces of the little white fox. After confirming that the charming fox by Tong was not in the mountain range, and that there were no exotic beasts that surpassed the 4th level of the Saint stage, Howren called out to the black bear and directly flew into the air, quickly leaving the mountain range and the 100 Chi Gate. Howren, where do you plan to go next? Seeing that Howren didn't fly back to Xianyang City after leaving the 100 Chi Gate, Thaling couldn't help but ask. Valley of the Medicine Masters, to visit the first clone. After leaving a list of his intended destinations, Howren exploded with all his strength and headed straight for the Valley of the Medicine Masters at lightning speed. In the forbidden area of the Imperial Palace in Xianyang City, the Qin Emperor asked the Heavenly Martial sect leader, Yi Junan, with a grave expression as he looked at the white-haired old man who was lying peacefully on the bed with barely discernible breathing. Lord Yi, how could the injuries of the Ancestor Yuan be so serious? Your Majesty, when Ancestor Yuan returned to the sect, although his injuries were very serious, he was still able to heal himself. In the face of Emperor Qin's interrogation, Yi Junan glanced coldly at Tang Yunjia and spoke rather rudely. However, ever since he left the forbidden area for healing, Ancestor Yuan's injuries instantly worsened. I'm now worried that Ancestor Yuan won't be able to see the sun rise tomorrow. Sect leader, it's all my fault. Tang Yunjia admitted his mistake in the face of Yi Junan's reprimand. If Ancestor Yuan returns in the end, then Yunjia is willing to follow Ancestor Yuan. Yunjia, things aren't as serious as you think. Emperor Qin hurriedly comforted Tang Yunjia after hearing that he was willing to die. Then, Emperor Qin turned his head and instructed Qin Lingfei, who had also come to visit the Tang family's ancestor. Lingfei immediately contacted the prince consort and asked him to return to the imperial palace as soon as possible so that he can treat Ancestor Yuan in time. After hearing Emperor Qin's instructions, Qin Lingfei nodded and took out the communication jade talisman. Just as she was about to contact Howren, the communication jade talisman in her hand immediately lit up. Father, sect leader Yi, brother Yunjia, the prince consort is back. Raising her head to remind the 3 people in the room, Qin Lingfei put away the communication jade talisman and immediately turned to leave the room to welcome Howren. Outside Xianyang City, in the sky about 300 kilometers away, Howren was rushing to Xianyang City at a steady speed. Howren, I really didn't expect that the first clone's alchemy cultivation would improve so quickly. Although it had been some time since he left the Medicine King Valley, Thaling still found it difficult to calm the shock in his heart. As the main body, Howren was not as shocked as Thaling, but he was also very excited. 5 hours ago, with the help of the spirit of the Medicine King Valley's high-grade rank, 3 Spirit Vein, he quietly sneaked into the valley where the pill furnace was stored and then used the method of telepathy to awaken the first clone that was cultivating in the pill furnace. To Yu Haoran's surprise, in less than a year, the first clone had not only successfully won the recognition of the low-grade Emperor Pill Furnace spirit, but also successfully refined the pill furnace into his life source weapon. Therefore, after awakening, the first clone directly brought him into the space of the pill furnace. After that, the first clone not only showed him the peak of the alchemy grandmaster level, but also spent less than 4 hours to refine 3 level 9 7 treasures resurrection elixirs, as well as the level 9 yin yang fusion elixir that he gave to Qin Ling Fei. The alchemy Dao cultivation and ability displayed by the first clone had already officially surpassed the main body, Yu Haoran. Yu Haoran, according to your knowledge of alchemy cultivation, how long will it take for the first clone to reach the Pill Emperor level? Seeing that they were getting closer and closer to Xianyang City, Thaling took a deep breath and finally calmed his agitated heart, and asked the answer he wanted to know most. Because the achievement of the first clone in alchemy in a short period of time was related to whether his spirit body could recover to the martial god level as soon as possible. Under normal circumstances, with the first clone's alchemy potential, even with the inheritance of the alchemy venerable and the guidance of the Emperor Pill Furnace spirit, it will take at least 3 to 5 years to reach the Pill Emperor level. After hearing Thaling's question, Yu Haoran did a little calculation and then answered. However, with the help of the nihility pill condensation technique, it will at least shorten the time by more than half. I think, in a year at least, and a year and a half at most, the first clone will definitely be able to break through the peak of the alchemy grandmaster level and become the first pill emperor in tens of thousands of years. Hearing Yu Haoran's answer, Thaling's emotions, which had been adjusted with difficulty, immediately fell into excitement again. However, he did not reveal his ultimate goal, nor did he express any emotions. He just returned to the top floor of the victor body and readjusted his emotions. At this moment, Qin Ling Fei quickly flew up from the palace of Xianyang City and then went straight to Yu Haoran. Chapter 1189. In the forbidden area of Xianyang City's imperial palace, Yu Haoran looked at the white-haired old man, whose aura was faintly discernible, lying on the bed. He withdrew his fingers from the old man's wrist and could not help but frown. "Junior brother Yu, how's great ancestor?" Tung Yunjie asked nervously when he saw Yu Haoran frowning. "Senior brother Tung, did your great ancestor consume a pill that can heal his soul on his way to Xianyang City after he left his place of cultivation?" Yu Haoran looked away from the white-haired old man and asked the nervous Tung Yunjie with a displeased tone. Tung Yunjie turned to look at the displeased Yi Junan. Then he nodded and replied, "Junior brother Yu, I was worried that great ancestor wouldn't be able to withstand the long journey, so I gave him a rank 4, grade 3 soul calming pill. Senior brother Tung, when I asked you to bring Senior Tung to Xianyang City, didn't I specifically tell you not to give him any pill that can heal his soul?" Yu Haoran complained after hearing Tung Yunjie's reply. He felt a headache coming on. "Why don't you listen to me?" Based on the examination just now and Thaling's speculation about the injuries to the Tung family's great ancestor's sea of consciousness and spiritual sense, he could roughly guess the severity of the great ancestor's injuries. Therefore, when Ouyangming's first clone planned to display his alchemy skills, he asked his clone to refine a rank 3, grade 9 soul-recovering pill to deal with the Tung family's great ancestor's sea of consciousness. Nevertheless, he did not expect that Tung Yunjie's refusal to listen to Ouyangming's advice caused trouble in his preparations. He had to refine another pill that could eliminate the soul-calming pill's medicinal efficacy to save the Tung family's great ancestor. After hearing Yu Haoran's complaint, Tung Yunjie could not help but turn to look at Yi Junan with a displeased look in his eyes. After witnessing Yu Haoran's performance in alchemy, how could he not take Yu Haoran's advice to heart? However, when the old ancestor was being transferred away from his place of cultivation, Sect Master Yi Junan completely ignored his warning and forcefully fed him a soul-calming pill, saying that it would prevent the old ancestor's injuries from worsening. Just now, Yi Junan had accused him of being untrustworthy. Now, Yu Haoran was blaming himself for not listening to his advice. At this moment, while Tung Yunjie felt wronged, he also resented Yi Junan. Seeing the dissatisfaction in Tung Yunjie's eyes, Yi Junan, who had long suppressed his anger, questioned in a mocking tone. Yu Haoran, on what basis do you say that the deterioration of Ancestor Yuan's injuries is because of this soul-calming pill? Is it because you just broke through the realm of alchemy, Grandmaster? Although Yu Haoran had never come into contact with the sect master of the Heavenly Martial Sect, Yi Junan, in his previous life, as one of the overlords of the seven great sects, he had heard many evaluations of Yi Junan. They said that he was a hateful person who was open-minded but short-sighted and missed countless good opportunities. They said that he was a person whose heart was higher than the sky, but whose life was thinner than paper and would always make others feel pity for him. They said that he was a lamentable person who was ambitious, but could not bear heavy responsibilities and was not suitable to be the sect master of the Heavenly Martial Sect. Yu Haoran did not think much of such an irresponsible person, whether it was in his previous life or in this life. Therefore, when he had just entered the door, he had chosen to ignore all of Yi Junan's questioning. However, now that Yi Junan had dared to question his ability in alchemy, Yu Haoran could not tolerate it and could not continue to ignore it. That's right, Yu Haoran said arrogantly as he looked straight at Yi Junan. Based on the fact that I, Yu Haoran, have just broken through to the realm of alchemy Grandmaster, I am qualified to give the evaluation just now. Huh? Yi Junan scoffed at Yu Haoran's arrogant reply. He sized up Yu Haoran with a disdainful gaze and did not hide the disdain in his eyes. Sect Master Yi, as one of the top 7 sects in the Tianxian continent, the Heavenly Martial Sect must have alchemists at the realm of alchemy Grandmaster. If Yi Junan had refuted or humiliated him, Yu Haoran might have only retaliated slightly on account of Tung Yunjie and let him know the price of looking down on others. However, Yi Junan's disdainful mockery was an action that could easily infuriate him. Therefore, Yu Haoran, who had regained his composure in an instant, decided to teach Yi Junan a lesson that he would never forget. That's right. Yi Junan frowned slightly and nodded in response to Yu Haoran's sudden anger. However, he still replied, rather arrogantly, "The Heavenly Martial Sect has 3 alchemy grandmasters that we nurtured ourselves. One of them has already reached the pinnacle of alchemy. Sect Master Yi, since the Heavenly Martial Sect has an alchemy grandmaster with such a profound cultivation, why did you ask Senior Brother Tang to ask me to refine the 9 Suns Soul Recovery Pill?" After hearing Yi Junan's arrogant reply, the corners of Yu Haoran's mouth curled up slightly. There was a hint of mockery in his eyes as he asked in a slightly provocative tone, "Who asked Ting Yunjie to ask you for help?" Yu Haoran's expression, gaze, and tone instantly ignited the anger in Yi Junan's heart. He immediately retorted with a flushed face. "Considering that you are the prince consort of the great Emperor Qin's kingdom and have a certain relationship with the Heavenly Martial Sect, I wanted you to refine the 9 Suns Soul Recovery Pill to raise your alchemy cultivation." Oh, after hearing Yi Junan's rebuttal, Yu Haoran immediately pretended to be surprised. Then, he put away his surprised expression and continued to mock Yi Junan with a faintly discernible expression. "Thank you for your kindness, Sect Master Yi. However, the 9 Suns Soul Recovery Pill's grade is too low. It can't raise my alchemy cultivation at all." After that, he didn't give Yi Junan a chance to speak at all. He looked as if he was about to leave. "Since your sect has an alchemy grandmaster with a higher alchemy cultivation, I won't embarrass myself here. I'll take my leave first." Seeing that Yu Haoran was about to leave and wasn't willing to help his sect's patriarch, Tung Yunjie opened his mouth to apologize and persuade him to stay. However, he was stopped by Emperor Qin's gaze. Originally, Emperor Qin didn't have a good impression of Yi Junan. It was only because of the special relationship between the imperial family and the Heavenly Martial Sect that he treated Yi Junan with respect. However, Yi Junan's attitude of looking down on Yu Haoran made Emperor Qin quite unhappy. He also wanted to borrow Yu Haoran's hand to teach Yi Junan a lesson. After receiving a reminder from Emperor Qin's gaze, Tung Yunjie finally chose to shut his mouth. Then, he looked at his sex patriarch with worry in his eyes. Seeing that Yu Haoran was about to leave, Yi Junan's face instantly darkened. Chapter 1190. In the forbidden area of the Imperial Palace in Xianyang City, Yi Junan did not immediately come forward to persuade Yu Haoran to stay, which was not out of his expectation. Therefore, just as he reached the door, he suddenly stopped and said to Tung Yunjie in an indifferent tone, "Senior brother Tung, it's not that Yu Haoran, don't leave him in the lurch, and it's not that I don't have the ability to save him. It's just that the sect master of the Heavenly Martial Sect doesn't need my help at all. If your great ancestor dies in the end, it has nothing to do with me, Yu Haoran, and you won't have any responsibility either. I think His Majesty will definitely testify for you and me." Knowing that Yu Haoran's counterattack had begun, Emperor Qin promised quite cooperatively, "Nephew Yunjie, if the higher-ups of the Tung family and the Heavenly Martial Sect hold you accountable, I will testify for you." When he heard Yu Haoran's slander and Emperor Qin's malicious help, Yi Junan, who wanted to instruct Tung Yunjie to take the great ancestor out of the Imperial Palace and return to the Heavenly Martial Sect, shouted at Yu Haoran with a livid face. "You, what do you mean by what you said just now?" Turning around, Yu Haoran shrugged and said with an innocent expression, "Sect Master Yi, I don't mean anything. I'm just telling the truth. When did I not ask you to save the great ancestor?" Yi Junan still questioned with a livid face in the face of Yu Haoran's shamelessness. "Sect Master Yi, when did you ask me to save the great ancestor?" Yu Haoran suddenly raised his voice and questioned. "You." In the face of Yu Haoran's questioning, Yi Junan suddenly did not know how to answer. This was because since Yu Haoran entered the sect, he had been questioning Yu Haoran's cultivation and alchemy. He had no ability to treat the great ancestor's injury at all. On the contrary, Yu Haoran's risky proposal had harmed the great ancestor. "Sect Master Yi, you just admitted that there's an alchemy grandmaster in the Heavenly Martial Sect whose cultivation and alchemy is far better than mine. Isn't it obvious that you don't believe in my ability in alchemy?" Yu Haoran did not give up the opportunity to continue attacking because of Yi Junan's silence. He continued to question in a loud voice. "Since Sect Master Yi doesn't believe in my, Yu Haoran's, ability in alchemy, then you must subconsciously not want me to save you. Then, what's wrong with me reminding you senior brothers just now?" Uses Yi Junan's SS, Yi Junan said Yi. Seeing that Yu Haoran was about to confirm the fact that he had framed the great ancestor, Yi Junan angrily rebuked him. "Yi Junan, God is watching what people do. I'm afraid only you know what you're thinking." In the face of Yi Junan's exasperated rebuke, Yu Haoran suddenly calmed down and said indifferently. Taking a deep breath and suppressing the anger in his heart, Yi Junan took a step back, indicating that he would not say more. In this regard, Yu Haoran could not help but sneer. Then he turned around, stepped over the threshold, and left the room. "Yu Haoran, don't go too far." Seeing Yu Haoran step out of the room, obviously ignoring his tacit concession just now, Yi Junan could no longer suppress the anger in his heart and directly scolded him. "Just now, I've already taken a step back. Do you still want me to kneel down and apologize?" Hearing Yi Junan's insults, not only did Emperor Qin and Qin Lingfei's faces instantly turn gloomy, but even Tung Yunjie could not help but frown. He intended to remind Yi Junan to pay attention to the way he spoke and his attitude towards Yu Haoran. However, Yu Haoran's storm-like counterattack made him swallow the words that were just about to come out of his mouth. "Yi Junan, don't be so shameless." After hearing Yi Junan's insults, Yu Haoran immediately turned to look straight at him and used the same method to scold him back. "I, Yu Haoran, am neither a disciple of the Heavenly Martial Sect, nor am I your subordinate. I don't have to do whatever you want me to do." Yu Haoran, do you think I don't dare to do it? After hearing Yu Haoran's insults, Yi Junan's eyes immediately flashed with a hint of murderous intent as he threatened. Seeing the murderous intent in Yi Junan's eyes, Emperor Qin immediately took out his Emperor Realm Sword and prepared to attack at any time. Yu Haoran shook his head at Emperor Qin and gestured for him to put away his Emperor Realm Sword. Then, he looked at Yi Junan with disdain and spoke in a disdainful tone. If you, Yi Junan, had already become a martial honorable, you would barely have the qualifications to threaten me. However, you are merely a peak third tribulation quasi-martial honorable. Having said that, Yu Haoran suddenly took a step forward and activated all his strength to form a terrifying aura as he closed in on Yi Junan. You do not have the qualifications to threaten me, Yu Haoran. When he sensed Yu Haoran's terrifying aura, which was infinitely close to the martial honorable realm, Yi Junan's face immediately turned serious. This was because he knew very well that although Yu Haoran's cultivation was not as high as his true strength was not inferior to his. If they really fought without using the heavenly martial sex Emperor Realm Sword, only God would know who would win in the end. Yi Junan could not use his strength to suppress Yi Junan, nor was he willing to bear the responsibility of what would happen to the ancestor of the origin. He chose to submit and requested, Yu Haoran, what do you want to save the ancestor of the origin? Yi Junan, that depends on what kind of sincerity you can bring out to make me willing to save the ancestor of the origin. Yu Haoran gave the choice back to Yi Junan. A 6th-level high-grade spiritual vein, a peak top-grade Saint Realm defensive magic tool, an early-stage Heaven Realm Palm technique, and a 3rd-level first-grade Spirit Dragon Heavenly Ganoderma. Seeing that Yu Haoran had given the choice back to him, Yi Junan closed his eyes and thought carefully for a while. Then, he gave a condition that he thought was very sincere. However, whether it was Emperor Qin, Qin Lingfei, or Tang Yunjie, they couldn't help but shake their heads in disappointment. Hearing Yi Junan's condition, Yu Haoran couldn't help but laugh. A day ago, I used a level 6 spiritual vein and 9 level 7 spiritual veins to increase the concentration of spiritual qi on the mountain where the sect is located. I have a secret method to transform into a 1,000-meter giant. It can allow my body to directly withstand the attack of a superior Saint Realm Sword. When I meet a close friend, the lowest grade of the mental cultivation method and martial skills I give them is at the upper level of the heaven level. As an alchemy grandmaster who can refine the supreme Huazuan pill, as long as I open the furnace to refine the pill, the lowest grade of the spiritual medicine I use is level 3, first level. At this point, Yu Haoran put away the ridicule on his face and asked angrily, Yi Junan, you are sending a beggar away. Although he wanted to mock Yu Haoran for his big words just now, his current expression and the calmness in his tone just now were enough to prove that what he said just now was not false. Chapter 1191. In the forbidden area of the Imperial Palace of Xianyang City. After thinking for nearly a minute, Yi Junan opened his eyes and said, 3 drops of 1,000 drug milk, an earth elemental pearl that can merge with the earth, and a 4th rank, 9th grade Yinming fruit. Hearing Yi Junan's second offer, not only was Yu Haoran tempted, but even Emperor Qin showed a look of desire in his eyes. The 1,000 drug milk was a drop of essence from 1,000 kinds of spiritual herbs. Using a special condensation method, it was purified continuously for 81 days. The 1,000 drug milk could not only greatly improve one's cultivation and strength, but also increase one's potential. Its effect was comparable to that of a 3rd rank 9th grade elixir. Only a top sect with a heritage of hundreds of thousands of years, like the Heavenly Martial sect, could have enough energy and financial resources to purify the 1,000 drug milk. The Earth Elemental Pearl was a treasure of the Earth element, a spiritual treasure bred by heaven and earth. With the Earth Elemental Pearl, one's body could merge with the earth about 10,000 meters underground. It was a must-have item to avoid the enemy's pursuit and steal treasures. The Yinming fruit contained a huge amount of pure, mysterious yin qi. Like the blue blood dark yin flower, it could improve the grade of the mysterious yin soul fire. Yu Haoran, can these 3 treasures be enough for you to save the ancestor? Yi Junan asked calmly, but from his action of clenching his teeth, one could tell his heartache and unwillingness at this time. In response, Yu Haoran turned his head to look at Qin Lingfei and finally stepped back into the room. Then he sat down cross-legged and began to take out 9 kinds of herbs between 4th rank and 5th rank from the storage ring. He began to refine the elixir that could eliminate the efficacy of the soul-calming pill and consolidate the sea of consciousness. In fact, whether it was the 1,000-drug milk or the earth elemental pearl, although they made him excited, he would never let Yi Junan go easily. However, the Yinming fruit was as important as charcoal in snowy weather for Qin Lingfei. If the dark underworld fruit was paired with the blue blood darking flower, not only would the darking soul fire in her body be promoted to a higher grade, it would also help her body's grade and her origin power to break through to the martial honorable realm. A breakthrough in the realms of her fleshly body and origin energy would allow her to easily advance into the top 100 in the upcoming Southern Region competition, and then accompany him to participate in the final competition of the 5 regions to obtain the blessing of the hidden dragon karmic luck. This was the main reason why he decided to let Yi Junan go. The grade of the pills used to eliminate the soul-calming pill was not very high. It only took less than 20 minutes to produce 9 pills. After getting up, Yu Haoran stepped to the bedside of Yuan Zhu. After taking the initiative to help him take the medicinal pill, he began to observe the changes in the sea of consciousness. The result was also as he expected. After the medicinal power of the tranquil soul pill disappeared, the origin ancestor's sea of consciousness gradually recovered to normal. After retreating to Qin Lingfei's side, Yu Haoran took out a rank 3, grade 9 7 treasures soul recovery pill and flicked it to Tung Yunjia as he instructed. Senior brother Tung, give this medicinal pill to your ancestor. In at most 10 minutes, he will be able to recover to his original state. Although he could not recognize the origin and grade of the medicinal pill in his hand, Tung Yunjia also knew that the medicinal pill in his hand was not of a low grade through the huge medicinal power contained in the medicinal pill. Therefore, before taking the medicinal pill for Yuan Zhu, he could not help but ask, Junior brother Yu, what grade of medicinal pill is this? Rank 3, grade 9 7 treasures soul recovery pill. Yu Haoran replied faintly. Z. After hearing Yu Haoran's reply, Emperor Qin and Yi Junan could not help but gasp. As the one who was closer to Yu Haoran, Emperor Qin could not help but ask for alchemy. Prince Consort, did you refine the 7 treasures soul recovery pill by yourself? The 7 treasures soul recovery pill, the bone fusion pill, and the eternal creation pill were known as the 3 sacred healing pills in the Tianxin continent. Among them, the 7 treasures soul recovery pill was aimed at the sea of consciousness and divine soul. The bone fusion pill was aimed at the Dantian and original energy, and the eternal creation pill was aimed at the physical body. The rank 3, grade 9 7 treasures soul recovery pill could heal nearly 80% of the injuries in the sea of consciousness and divine soul of martial artists below the realm of Emperor Wu. It was the life-saving medicinal pill that all martial sages and martial venerables yearned for the most. That's right. Nodding his head, Yu Haoran turned his head to look at Yi Junan. His tone carried a trace of complaint. If Yuan Zhu had not misused the soul-calming pill, he would not have needed the 7 treasures soul recovery pill at all. Then, he took out 3 7 treasures soul recovery pills from the storage ring and gave one each to Emperor Qin, Qin Lingfei, and Tung Yunjia. He said in an indifferent tone, It's my first time refining the 7 treasures soul recovery pill. Not only did I refine 9 pills, but they all reached the rank 3, grade 9. They're not too precious to me. In fact, what he said just now was just to provoke Yi Junan and make him regret offending him. As one of the 3 famous sacred healing pills in the Tianxian continent, the 7 Treasures Soul Recovery Pill was not so easy to refine. Even if he used the void essence coagulation technique, the success rate was less than 10%. Of course, the reason why he dared to boast was that his first clone would completely return before the start of the Hidden Dragon Roll battle in the South region. At that time, he would have enough confidence to back up the boast he had made just now. Originally, he wanted to return the 7 Treasures Soul Recovery Pill in his hand, but when he saw Yu Haoran's indifferent tone, Tang Yunjie happily put away the pill, then stepped in front of Yuan Zhu and helped him take the 7 Treasures Soul Recovery Pill. In an instant, he stood in front of Qin Lingfei, and, at the same time, he activated the ancestral witch's body and the Rui Bell in his soul to form a double defense. Just when Qin Lingfei was puzzled by Yu Haoran's actions, just as the 7 Treasures Soul Recovery Pill entered Yuan Zhu's body, a terrifying aura was instantly stimulated. After sensing the bloodline in Tang Yunjie's body, the terrifying aura directly avoided him, and then fiercely pressed on Yu Haoran, Qin Lingfei, Emperor Qin, and Yi Junan. Although he had used all his defensive means, in the face of the terrifying aura of the quasi-Emperor Wu realm, Yu Haoran was still shaken back 3 steps. Fortunately, the intelligent Qin Lingfei immediately mobilized Yuan Qi and soul power to give him stronger support, allowing him to finally block the pressure of the terrifying aura. Emperor Qin, who knew and was familiar with Yu Haoran, vaguely guessed the change in Yuan Zhu when he saw him suddenly standing in front of Ling Fei. Therefore, he also took out his Emperor-level sword in time, and with the Emperor's power emitted by the Emperor-level sword, he barely resisted the majesty of the terrifying aura. Yi Junan, who was unprepared and weak, was directly blasted back more than 10 steps by the terrifying aura, and then slammed into the wall of the specially made room. The double impact of the terrifying aura and the wall's rebound made him spit out 3rd-rank blood, and his face instantly turned pale. "Ancestor, I'm Yunjie, and everyone in the room is on our side." After seeing the terrifying aura emitted by his ancestor and the indiscriminate attack, Tang Yunjie immediately reminded him. Chapter 1192. Xianyang City, Imperial Palace, Forbidden Area. Reaching out to hold Yu Haoran's hand, Qin Lingfei looked at him with eyes full of tenderness. At the moment of danger, Yu Haoran had immediately stood in front of her to protect her. This was enough to prove his most sincere love for her. How could Qin Lingfei not be moved? Emperor Qin looked at Yu Haoran with eyes full of appreciation and relief, thinking that he had not chosen the wrong man for his precious daughter to entrust her life to. Yi Junan, on the other hand, looked at everyone in the room with a gloomy face, his hands inside his sleeves clenching. As if sensing Yi Junan's hostility, Yu Haoran suddenly turned his head and looked at him without saying a word. Taking a deep breath and suppressing the resentment in his heart, Yi Junan took out the pill bottle containing the 1,000 drug milk, the wooden box containing the underworld fruit, and the earth elemental bead from his storage ring, and directly threw them to Yu Haoran. After receiving the 3 treasures, Yu Haoran put away the 1,000 drug milk and the earth elemental bead, then handed the wooden box containing the underworld fruit to Qin Lingfei. Lingfei, as the underworld fruit contains cold Yin Qi, it can greatly increase the grade of your profound Yin soul fire and effectively increase your cultivation and strength. Without any hesitation, Qin Lingfei accepted the wooden box with a blissful expression. Lingfei, for the time being, don't use the underworld fruit to increase the grade of your profound Yin soul fire. Seeing Qin Lingfei obediently receive the wooden box, Yu Haoran nodded with satisfaction. But thinking that the underworld fruit and the 3rd stage 1st grade bloodshed profound Yin flower could truly transform her cultivation and strength, he hurriedly exhorted. "On the day of our wedding, I will give you a treasure even more precious than the underworld fruit. At that time, the 2 treasures will be even more effective when taken together." And, nodding, Qin Ling Fei did not say much, but held Yu Haoran's broad and powerful hand more tightly. Taking a deep breath and then slowly exhaling, Yuan Zhu, who was lying flat on the bed, slowly opened his eyes. "Ancestor, you're awake." Seeing that Yuan Zhu's breath had calmed down and his face was ruddy again, Tung Yunjie was so excited that he almost cried. "Yunjie, thank you for your hard work." After sitting cross-legged, Yuan Zhu looked at Tung Yunjie with a kind face and comforted. "It's not hard." After hearing Yuan Zhu's comfort, Tung Yunjie immediately shook his head. "As long as you're safe and sound, I'm as willing to do anything." Reaching out and stroking Tung Yunjie's head, a trace of relief flashed in Yuan Zhu's eyes. Then, he looked at Yi Junan, who still had a trace of blood on the corner of his mouth. His eyes flashed with dissatisfaction. However, when his gaze landed on Yu Haoran, the dissatisfaction in his eyes was replaced by kindness as he spoke in a gentle tone. "You must be the person who saved me. Yuan Zhu, this is Yu Haoran, junior brother Yu. He is an alchemy grandmaster who can refine supreme Weiren pill and 7 treasures resurrection pill. At the same time, he is Princess Ling Fei's husband and His Majesty's most valued son-in-law." Seeing that Yuan Zhu had noticed Yu Haoran, Tung Yunjie immediately introduced him in detail. "Yu Zongshi, thank you." For Yuan Zhu, whose cultivation was at the Quasi-Emperor Wu realm, the supreme Weiren pill that could help him break through to the martial venerable realm was no longer too tempting. However, he was also very tempted by the 7 treasures resurrection pill, one of the 3 major healing panaceas in the Tianxin continent. After all, after one reached Quasi-Martial Emperor, one would normally go out for experiential training either in the 10 Great Forbidden Lands, known as the 10 Great Forbidden Lands, or in the incredibly dangerous Boundless Void. If he had a 7 treasures resurrection pill that could heal his sea of consciousness and divine soul, his chances of survival would be greatly improved. "Senior, you don't have to be so polite. With my friendship with senior brother Tung, I should help." Faced with Yuan Zhu, whose cultivation had reached the Quasi-Emperor Wu realm, Yu Haoran quickly let go of Qin Ling Fei's hand and said politely, "Also, senior, you don't have to call me Yu Zongshi. You could just call me by my name." "Okay." Facing Yu Haoran's modesty and politeness, Yuan Zhu nodded appreciatively and closed his eyes. Only 3 seconds later, Yuan Zhu, who had reopened his eyes, had 2 more things in his hands. This is a 10,000-year-old blood spirit ginseng that can help your Yuanli break through to the martial venerable realm as soon as possible. "Consider it as my thanks for saving my life," Yuan Zhu explained with a smile as he handed a wooden box directly to Yu Haoran. In fact, when he saw Yuan Zhu take out the 2 wooden boxes, Yu Haoran had already guessed his intention and wanted to refuse to accept the gift. But when he heard that the treasure in the first wooden box was a 10,000-year-old blood spirit ginseng, he swallowed the words of refusal that were on the tip of his tongue. Because in the special elixir that he wanted to use the 1,000 drug milk to refine, the most important auxiliary medicinal material was the 10,000-year-old blood spirit ginseng, which was one of the reasons why he returned to the primeval forest. Unfortunately, there was no 10,000-year-old blood spirit ginseng in the primeval forest. "Thank you, senior." Reaching out to take the wooden box, Yu Haoran thanked him. "This is a 9-color lotus that has reached the 9th rank of the 3rd rank. I hope to exchange it for a 3-level 9th rank 7 treasures resurrection pill." After seeing that Yu Haoran agreed to accept the 10,000-year-old blood spirit ginseng, Yuan Zhu secretly breathed a sigh of relief, and the smile on his face became wider. Then, he directly opened the wooden box in his hand and introduced it to Yu Haoran expectantly. Slightly shocked, Yu Haoran looked up at Yuan Zhu with a thoughtful look in his eyes. After thinking for nearly 5 minutes, Yu Haoran took out a 7 treasures resurrection pill from the storage ring and sent it to Yuan Zhu by wrapping it with Yuan Qi. "Thank you." Reaching out to take the 7 treasures resurrection pill, Yuan Zhu thanked him with a smile and sent the 9-color lotus in his hand to Yu Haoran. "Senior, if you can find any 3 of superb 9 vine, 9 leaves flower, 9 clover jade ganoderma, 9 lives pangolin, 9 death's water, 9 heavens jade ichor, 9 heavens supreme mystery grass, and 9 earth soul ginseng. Then I will give you one of the refined elixirs. After taking the 3-level 9th rank 9 color lotus and sending it to Victor, Yuhaoran looked straight into Yuan Zu's eyes and said, Yuhaoran, is this true? After hearing the conditions given by Yuhaoran, Yuan Zu stood up in shock and asked with a slightly trembling voice, If you don't believe it, I swear by the rules of heaven. Yuhaoran solemnly promised, You don't need to swear by the rules of heaven. I believe in your character. Yuan Zu waved his hand and said with a firm attitude. Then, he took a deep breath and asked with a dignified look, Yuhaoran, how sure are you that you can refine it? Within a year, 10%. In the face of Yuan Zu's confirmation, Yuhaoran said confidently. Chapter 1193. In the Imperial Palace of Xianyang City, in the Forbidden Area. What? The time span was not very long, but the success rate of the final pill was very different, which made Yuan Zu feel very puzzled. Pill Emperor. Yuhaoran only said 2 words, and it made Ancestor Yuan's mood immediately excited. His eyes were full of respect when he looked at him. How many pills can be formed in the end? Yuan Zu took a deep breath, forcibly suppressing the excitement in his heart, and continued to ask. Within a year, at most 2. After thinking about it for a while, Yuhaoran still replied confidently. More than a year, at least 3. Yuhaoran, if I can provide 6 of the 8 spiritual medicines, can I get one more pill? After hearing Yuhaoran's reply, Yuan Zu asked carefully. In the face of Yuan Zu's request, Yuhaoran's eyes showed a trace of hesitation. However, thinking that the deeper the understanding of the nihility pill condensation technique, the more pills there would be in the end. Moreover, the number of pills he needed was not much, so he finally nodded and agreed. Senior, if more than 3 pills are formed in the end, you may get 2 pills. Thank you, thank you, thank you. After getting Yuhaoran's consent, Yuan Zu, who almost lost control of his emotions, took 2 deep breaths and then said thank you 3 times. This made Emperor Qin and others of the scene feel puzzled, but at the same time, they were very interested in the pill Yuhaoran intended to refine. Ancestor, what kind of pill is it? Relying on the ancestors doting on him, Tung Yunjie asked directly. Haoran, what kind of pill do you want to refine? Qin Lingfei also wanted to know the origin of the pill that could cause Yuan Zu to almost lose control of his emotions. Shut up. In the face of Tung Yunjie's inquiry, Yuan Zu directly changed his face and shouted, Lingfei, although this kind of pill is prepared for you in advance, your current cultivation is too low, so it's not good to know in advance. Although Yuhaoran's attitude was not as intense as Yuan Zu's, he also did not reveal the origin of the elixir he intended to refine. The reason was as he had just explained. Tung Yunjie had a bitter expression on his face and did not say anything else. Qin Lingfei held his hand again with a face full of happiness. Senior, although the 7 treasure soul returning pill is a panacea for healing the sea of consciousness and the divine soul, you've been injured for too long. I'm afraid you still need to adjust your breathing to fully recover. Yuhaoran had finished what he needed to do, so there was no point in continuing to stay other than wasting time. Therefore, Yuhaoran took his leave. Furthermore, I still need to readjust my state in order to complete my agreement with Senior Brother Tung and refine a 3rd stage, 1st grade 7 lives profound gate pill for him. Therefore, I will take my leave for now. Hearing that Yuhaoran planned to refine the 7 lives mysterious gate pill recently, Ancestor Yuan's eyes flashed, and he quickly nodded in agreement. Yuhaoran, go ahead and prepare. If you need anything, just tell everyone in the Heavenly Martial Sect, including me. Moreover, when you open the furnace to refine the 7 lives mysterious gate pill, I will personally guard you. Thank you, Senior. After cupping his hands and thanking him, Yuhaoran took Qin Lingfei's hand and left the room. However, when he passed by Yi Junan, he suddenly paused and then couldn't help but shake his head and sigh in disappointment. After leaving the forbidden area of the palace, Qin Lingfei shook Yu Haoran's arm and asked with a puzzled face, Haoran, why did you shake your head and sigh at sect leader Yi just now? Nothing, it's just very interesting. Yu Haoran said something that made Qin Lingfei even more confused. However, seeing that Yu Haoran had no intention to explain further, she did not continue to ask. In the Zhou clan's meeting hall, the current clan leader of the Zhou clan, Zhou Yuz, sat on the wide dragon chair in the main hall. Below him sat 4 white-haired elders with auras as deep as the sea. As for Zhou Zhiga, who had interacted with Yu Haoran before, he stood carefully in the hall and occasionally raised his head to look at the dignified clan leader. Level 3. Level 3, Supreme Hua Xiao Pill. Level 3. Level 1, 7 Lives Mysterious Gate Pill. Level 3. Level 9, 7 Treasures Soul Returning Pill. Zhou Yuz, who was holding a communication jade talisman in his hand, muttered to himself with an inexplicable smile on his face. Even if my Zhou clan's alchemy genius was at its peak, he would not be able to easily refine these 3 top-notch pills when he was in the alchemy grandmaster realm. Yu Haoran may be the number 1 alchemy genius since Laozi's time in the Middle Ages. After hearing Zhou Yu's evaluation of Yu Haoran, Zhou Zhiga could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. The 4 white-haired elders who had their eyes closed opened their eyes at the same time and raised their heads to look at Zhou Yuz. Zhiga, is Yu Haoran really not interested in Ningyi? Zhou Yuz asked with a smile as he flicked the communication jade talisman in his hand to a white-haired elder with a benevolent expression sitting on the lower left. If it's the clan leader, he really has no interest at all. After hearing Zhou Yu's interrogation, Zhou Zhiga immediately explained nervously. At that time, Ningyi took off her silk veil in front of Yu Haoran alone and revealed her most beautiful and gentle side. However, Yu Haoran's reaction was very cold. According to my judgment as an experienced person, there is no hope between the two of them. It seems that Ningyi is still not beautiful and charming enough. After hearing Zhou Zhiga's explanation, Zhou Yuz commented self-righteously. Subsequently, he looked at the second white-haired elder on the lower right and asked with a tone of discussion, Old Ancestor Feng Su, I wonder if Qinny has someone in mind? Clan leader, Qinny will definitely take down Yu Haoran and complete the clan's great undertaking. Old Ancestor Feng Su's eyes flashed with a trace of displeasure as he gave a guarantee against his will. Ignoring the displeasure in Old Ancestor Feng Su's eyes, Zhou Yuz ordered with a smile. In that case, the people who will go to Xianyang City to attend the ceremony will be personally selected by Old Ancestor Feng Su. Yes, Old Ancestor Feng Su nodded his head and got up to leave the meeting hall. Disperse. Zhou Yuz, who also got up and left the dragon throne, indicated. Grand Elder, please wait. Just as the 3 white-haired elders and Zhou Zhiga got up and prepared to leave the meeting hall, Zhou Yuz suddenly spoke to the white-haired elder who had just received the communication jade talisman. Grand Elder, go to the clan's secret vault and retrieve a treasure as a congratulatory gift for Yu Haoran's wedding. Zhou Yuz instructed the Grand Elder who remained in the hall. Clan leader, could it be that you plan to personally attend Yu Haoran's wedding? The Grand Elder asked with a slightly moved expression. That's right. Chapter 1194. Xianyang City, EU Palace. Prince Consort, His Majesty hopes that you can temporarily postpone the refining of the 7 Lives Profound Gate Pill to avoid unpredictable changes. Director Jiang, who is standing respectfully in the living room, discussed with a pleading tone. Director Jiang, have you found out who leaked the news that I plan to refine the 7 Lives Profound Gate Pill tomorrow? Yu Haoran, who was sitting on the armchair, asked with a frown while enjoying Qin Lingfei's shoulder massage. No. After hearing Yu Haoran's interrogation, a trace of hesitation flashed through Director Zhang's eyes. But in the end, he shook his head to indicate that he didn't know. Yi Junan. After reaching out and picking up a 7th-rank first-grade purple cherry fruit and throwing it directly into his mouth, Yu Haoran sneered and said name. In this regard, Director Jiang lowered his head and didn't say anything. Director Jiang, go back and report to His Majesty that I will not change my decision. Tomorrow morning, I will open the furnace on time to refine the pill. Director Jiang lowered his head and didn't say anything, which directly confirmed his guess. In this regard, not only was Yu Haoran not angry, he was secretly happy in his heart. Then, he expressed to Director Jiang that he would definitely not change his decision to refine the pill. Prince Consort, the Empress Dowager hasn't returned yet. With only the Emperor and the Ancestor, I'm afraid they won't be able to resist some people with bad intentions. Hearing that Yu Haoran still insisted on opening the furnace tomorrow morning, Director Jiang continued to persuade him anxiously. It's fine. Raising his hand to indicate that Director Jiang didn't need to say anything, Yu Haoran said confidently. Director Jiang, actually, the reason why I opened the furnace in advance to refine the 7 Lives Profound Gate Pill is just to complete the agreement between me and Senior Brother Tongue. After the pill tribulation, no matter how many pills are formed in the end, I only need to leave 1 pill for others. As for the remaining pills, whoever wants to snatch them can snatch them. Prince Consort, you can't. Upon hearing Yu Haoran's plan to deal with the remaining medicinal pills, Director Jiang's expression changed drastically as he tried to persuade him. On the other hand, the person who can snatch the 7 Lives Mysterious Gate Pill must be a peerless expert at the peak of the martial honorable realm, as well as an almighty expert who is about to reach the level of Emperor Wu. If experts of this level were to fight for the pills, the aftermath of the battle would definitely destroy the entire Imperial Palace, or even the entire Xianyang city. Chief Steward Jiang, who said that I was refining pills in the palace. After hearing Director Jiang's anxious persuasion, Yu Haoran shrugged and asked in a helpless tone, "Then where does the Prince Consort plan to start refining pills?" After hearing Yu Haoran's helpless question, Chief Steward Jiang secretly heaved a sigh of relief. At the same time, he also developed a strong interest in the place he chose to refine pills. Hengguan Mountains. The corners of Yu Haoran's mouth rose slightly as he replied with a strange smile. This old servant understands. Nodding his head, Director Jiang seemed to have guessed the reason why Yu Haoran chose the Hengguan Mountains to refine the 7 Lives Mysterious Gate Pill. Because under the witness of the Heavenly Tao Law, Yu Haoran had single-handedly exterminated 11 quasi-honorable realm beasts in the Hengguan Mountains. It could be said that this was the beginning of Yu Haoran's fame in the Tianxian continent. It could also be said that this was his blessed land. He probably wanted to use this blessed land to increase the success rate of refining the 7 Lives Mysterious Gate Pill. Seeing that Director Jiang misunderstood his intentions, Yu Haoran only chuckled and did not explain too much. The edge of the Hengduan Mountains. Looking at the Hengduan Mountains that was completely enveloped by black smoke, Yu Haoran's eyes flashed with a cold light. After successfully completing the blood oath of the Heavenly Tao Law and killing all the quasi-honorable realm beasts, the entire Hengduan Mountains could be said to be his backyard. The countless treasures in the mountains could be freely taken by him and his friends and relatives. However, all of this was destroyed by the sudden appearance of the Grade 7 Black Lotus. He was quite narrow-minded and vengeful, so he had never forgotten the idea of eliminating the Grade 7 Black Lotus. Now, with the opportunity of refining the 7 Lives Mysterious Gate Pill to attract powerful experts like the Martial Venerable and the soon-to-be Emperor Wu, he could take revenge and eliminate the last flaw in his state of mind cultivation. Then he could break through to the Martial Venerable realm in his physical body, origin power, law, and soul power in his peak state. Retracting the cold light that flashed in his eyes from time to time, Yu Haoran turned his head and ordered Tung Yunjie, Senior Brother Tung, give me the medicinal ingredients for refining the 7 Lives Mysterious Gate Pill. Junior Brother Yu, it won't affect your refining, right? Pointing at the black gas that emitted an evil aura in front of him, Tung Yunjie reminded him worriedly. It won't affect me at all. Yu Haoran smiled and comforted him. All right. Since Yu Haoran said that it didn't matter, Tung Yunjie didn't try to persuade him anymore. He directly took out 2 sets of medicinal ingredients that he had already prepared and handed them to Yu Haoran. Ling Fei, senior brother Tong, you guys just stay here and watch. Don't enter the Hengduan mountain range. After receiving the storage ring, Yu Haoran reminded Qin Ling Fei and Teng Yunjie. Haoran, you be careful too. Qin Ling Fei nodded meekly and reminded him. He turned around and soared into the sky, flying directly to the depths of the Hengduan mountain range. Then, he lowered his head and looked at the deep pit that was constantly emitting black gas. Yu Haoran sneered and muttered to himself, Grade 7 Black Lotus. When the pill tribulation comes, I don't believe that you can continue to hide in the deep pit. When more than 10 martial venerables and powerhouses who are about to reach the Emperor Wu's realm join forces to attack, I don't believe that you can still hold on. After taking a deep breath and adjusting the hatred that had just emerged in his heart, Yu Haoran sat cross-legged in midair with his knees bent. Then, he closed his eyes and waited silently. When the sun rose in the east and everything in the world began to awaken, Yu Haoran suddenly opened his eyes. Then, he quickly formed a seal with his 10 fingers and began to use the pill condensation technique to condense the space of the Dantian fire. Ever since his mental cultivation had broken through to the martial venerable realm, and Thaling was no longer as cautious as before, he was no longer too afraid to expose the existence of the pill condensation technique. Moreover, he also wanted to use the power and mystery of the pill condensation technique to further enhance his deterrence in the art of alchemy, so that some people with bad intentions would have scruples. This was also the main reason why he exposed the pill condensation technique in front of Teng Yunjie and Yi Junan. Otherwise, with Yi Junan's character and methods, how could he easily swallow the humiliation he had suffered? As Yu Haoran sat cross-legged in the sky above the Hengduan mountain range, some martial venerables and Emperor Wu-level ancestors who had rushed over in time were all hidden in the void. They quietly watched Yu Haoran, who was quickly forming a seal with his 10 fingers, preparing to refine the 7 lives mysterious gate pill. Chapter 1195. Hengduan Mountain Range in the Sky. Qinny, Ancestor Xian, knows you look down on Yu Haoran and are unwilling to tie the knot with him from the bottom of your heart. But for the great cause of the Zhou clan, for the sake of awakening the ancestor who is in deep slumber, you have no choice but to sacrifice your own happiness. Ancestor Feng Su saw that the pill concoction technique Yu Haoran was familiar with was actually the nothingness pill congealing technique, which was created by the #1 pill concoction master of the Middle Ages. Ancestor Feng Su suddenly thought of Patriarch Zhou Yu's evaluation of Yu Haoran, and a feeling of admiration abruptly arose in his heart. The trace of discomfort that had accumulated in his heart instantly disappeared, and he started to take the initiative to persuade his great-great-granddaughter, Zhou Qinny. Ancestor Xian, you know Qinny already has someone she likes, and it's simply impossible for her to accept another man. After hearing Ancestor Feng Su's persuasion, a charming young girl who was graceful like a swimming dragon refused with a face full of grievances. A mere small clan that has existed for less than 100,000 years. A trash that's already 20 years old and has just broken through to the martial saint realm. What qualifications does he have to marry my Zhou clan's precious daughter? After hearing Qinny mention her beloved, Ancestor Feng Su immediately ridiculed with a face full of disdain. Ancestor Xian, I won't allow you to belittle brother you like this. After hearing Ancestor Feng Su ridicule her beloved, Qinny immediately berated him with dissatisfaction. Qinny, Ancestor Xian will tell you the truth. Ancestor Feng Su's expression instantly became gloomy when he saw his most beloved great-great-granddaughter actually berate him for a trash-like man. Ancestor Feng Su raised his head to look at Yu Haoran, who was quickly refining the medicinal ingredients, and spoke with an unquestionable tone with an expressionless face. If Yu Haoran hadn't used the nothingness pill congealing technique, I, Ancestor Feng Su, would have given up my old face to ask the Patriarch, and perhaps he would have considered arranging for another woman of the clan. But now, after speaking up to here, Ancestor Feng Su turned his head to look at his great-great-granddaughter, and his eyes flashed with a cold light from time to time as he threatened. If you don't agree, then the patriarch will send people to directly slaughter all 97,654 people of the Xiang clan, including the 37 newborns. After hearing Ancestor Feng Su's threat, Qian Yi's complexion turned pale as she took a few steps back. Her eyes were filled with fear. Seeing that his threat had frightened Qian, old Ancestor Feng Su couldn't help but let out a soft sigh, then said in a gentle tone, "Qian Yi, according to my understanding, not only does Yu Haoran possess shocking talent in alchemy, but his own martial arts are also very outstanding. At the same time, he is also a person who values relationships very much. Choosing to become his woman might be a better choice for you." "Why me?" Patriarch Feng Su's consolation caused the fear in Qian Yi's eyes to gradually dissipate. However, her heart was filled with unwillingness and unwillingness. She couldn't help but raise her head and question Ancestor Qian. "Because of your beauty, your martial talent, and your soft body, you have a fatal temptation to Yu Haoran. You have the qualifications to complete the clan's great undertaking." Ancestor Feng Su spoke the truth. "Ancestor Qian, if we're talking about beauty, martial talent, and soft body, then I'm afraid the patriarch's most beloved young Miss Meng Ling is more suitable." The reason for arranging for her to marry Yu Haoran was actually because of her own external conditions. After hearing Ancestor Qian speak the truth, Qian Yi couldn't help but sneer and provoke him. "Qian Yi, if you fail this time, then on the day of Yu Haoran's wedding, the patriarch will bring Meng Ling to attend the wedding." Facing Qian Yi's provocation, Ancestor Feng Su spoke with an indifferent expression. For the sake of the clan's great undertaking, the patriarch was actually willing to sacrifice his most beloved daughter. Qian Yi was completely stunned by Ancestor Feng Su's words. After the shock, a thought instantly flashed through Qian Yi's mind, a plan to get rid of being married to Yu Haoran. But just as she was secretly delighted that she was able to think of this flawless plan, Ancestor Feng Su's next sentence made her feel cold from head to toe. "If young Miss Meng Ling becomes Yu Haoran's woman, then you and Ningyi will be the dowry girls and stay by Yu Haoran and young Miss Meng Ling's side forever." Her face that had just recovered instantly turned pale, and the ruthless blow made Qian Yi shed tears of sadness. As a 7 lives profound gate pill that could assist a quasi-Emperor Wu to cross the heart tribulation, it was different from refining the supreme Huazuan pill. The difference was not how difficult it was to refine the 7 lives profound gate pill, but that the amount of medicinal herbs refined during the initial refinement was too large. Although the nihility pill condensation technique could increase the refining speed by more than 10 times, the amount of medicinal herbs that were as many as 108 kinds of medicinal herbs still made Yu Haoran's consumption very large. Using the pill fire to temporarily warm the spiritual liquid, he directly swallowed the 2 pills that he had pressed onto the tip of his tongue in advance, and tightly held the 2 4th-stage 9th-rank spirit stones that he had prepared beforehand. After his spirit power and soul power returned to their peak, he continued to form seals with his 10 fingers and began the first key step of refining the pill, condensing the pill. Just as Yu Haoran used the nihility pill condensation technique to condense the spiritual liquid, the amount of black gas that continuously emerged from the deep pit below began to gradually increase, and gradually began to boil. Accompanied by the boiling black gas, one after another slightly dim black shadows rushed out from the deep pit, and then quickly rushed into the Hengduan mountain range, blending into the dense black gas. Unfortunately, whether it was the Thaling in the sea of consciousness, or the patriarchs of the inherited families and sects hidden in the void, their attention had always been on Yu Haoran. No one noticed the unforeseen event in the deep pit of the mountain range. After the most time-consuming refining of the medicinal herbs was completed, the remaining process of condensing the pill and dividing the pills was not very different from refining the supreme Huazuan pill. so Yu Haoran quickly succeeded in dividing the pills into 9 pills. Next was the most important step of the entire pill refining process, and that was the process of nourishing the pills after dividing the pills. As the 9 pills in the space of the Dantian fire began to draw in and devour large amounts of spiritual energy, the black gas in the Hungduan mountain range was also drawn in and devoured by the 9 pills. His expression changed slightly, and Yu Haoran directly stood up and took a few steps back. After that, he looked at the black gas that was continuously flowing into the space of the Dantian fire with a serious expression. Something's not right. Thowing in the sea of consciousness also looked at the 9 pills that were devouring the black gas, and his brows were tightly furrowed, and his voice was filled with doubt. Although the black gas that the grade 7 Black Lotus emits belongs to one of the myriad types of energy, it's not suitable for increasing the inner energy of the pills at all. After hearing Thowling's detailed analysis of the black gas, a light flashed through Yu Haoran's mind. He thought of a special demonic pill, and immediately used all of his consciousness to seal the space of the Dantian fire. Chapter 1196. In the void of the Hungduan mountain range. 99 Devil Gathering Pills. Yu Haoran gritted his teeth and said as he looked at the 9 pills in the space of his Dantian fire. The 9 pills that were originally crystal clear had become completely pitch black after fusing with 9 strands of dark energy that made his heart palpitate. 99 Devil Gathering Pills. After hearing Yu Haoran gnashing his teeth and saying the changes of the pills, Thowling in his sea of consciousness pondered carefully and still asked with some confusion. Yu Haoran, I remember that you made an agreement with the Tung family's ancestor to refine the 2nd rank 1st grade 99 spirit gathering pills. Is there any special connection between these 2 pills that have very similar names? Between the 99 spirit gathering pills and the 99 devil gathering pills, there's a world of difference in essence and grade, but there are also similarities in their effects. After hearing the tower spirit's question, Yu Haoran looked at the 9 pills, which were becoming brighter and brighter as they devoured more and more black gas, and explained with a complicated expression. 99 spirit gathering pills are 2nd rank 1st grade pills with the same effect as the Supreme Huazuan pill. It can help powerhouses at the peak of the 9th rank martial venerable realm and the quasi-emperor realm to break through to the Emperor Wu realm by 50%. 99 devil gathering pills don't have a fixed pill formula and grade, and the effect of assisting in breaking through to the next realm is uncertain. Speaking of this, Yu Haoran lowered his head and looked at the mountain range that was gradually revealing its inner shape because a large amount of black gas was being devoured by the pills. His eyes flashed with a cold light from time to time as he continued to explain. The 7th rank Black Lotus used a method of dividing his soul to merge with the 7 lives mysterious gate pills that I refined. While completely changing the quality of the pills, it will also increase the grade of the pills. Yu Haoran, what grade will these 9 pills reach in the end? Thowling immediately asked. Between the 7th rank and 9th rank of the 3rd rank. Yu Haoran said with some uncertainty. How does it help the 7th rank Black Lotus? Thowling was surprised to hear the final grade of the 99 magic condensing pellet. He wanted to know the ultimate purpose of the grade 7 Black Lotus, to consume his spirit to increase the grade of the pellet. Advanced to the 8th grade Black Lotus. After Yu Haoran answered Thowling's question, he frowned slightly and a trace of doubt appeared in his eyes. Even if the 99 demonic condensation pill was refined into a rank 3 9th grade pill and helped it advance to the rank 8 grade, Black Lotus's strength would only be equivalent to a peak rank 9 martial saint. According to Thowling's divine sense, there were 9 peerless masters of the martial venerable realm in the void around the Hungduan mountains, not to mention the 3 almighty masters of the quasi-Emperor Wu realm. Under such circumstances, Black Lotus did not hesitate to expose his existence and risk using the method of dividing his soul to change the quality and attribute of the 7 lives profound gate pill. Was he not afraid of arousing the greed of the masters hidden in the void, and finally ending up with his spirit destroyed and his body refined into a magic tool? Thinking of how the 7th-rank Black Lotus used a trick to devour his 5th-rank White Lotus, Yu Haoran knew that it was not a reckless and impulsive spiritual being that did not care about the consequences. Then why did it do this? When he looked back at the space of the Dantian fire and saw the pitch-black demonic pellet, an idea suddenly flashed in his mind, and he immediately asked Thaling for help. Thaling, can you use the assistance of the main body Victor to expand the range of the divine sense search? After hearing Yu Haoran's request for help, Thaling did not ask the reason for expanding the search range. He directly mobilized 5% of the main body's energy and increased the power of his divine sense by 30%. Yu Haoran, in the void 30,000 miles away, there is a first tribulation quasi-Emperor Wu demonic giant. In less than 5 seconds, Thaling found the demonic powerhouse that was hidden deeper. At the same time, he also guessed the real reason why the 7th-ranked Black Lotus took the risk to change the quality and grade of the 7 Lives Profound Gate Pill. After being reminded by Thaling, Yu Haoran did not feel the slightest tension. Instead, a strange smile appeared on his face. Returning to the independent space of the Dantian fire, he took out 18 poisonous medicinal herbs from the storage ring and threw them directly into the independent space of the Dantian fire. Yu Haoran's inexplicable action not only allowed the 7th-ranked Black Lotus to quietly reach the edge of the deep pit, but also allowed the demonic giant, hidden 30,000 miles away, to directly lurk in the void outside the Hungduan Mountains. The 18 medicinal herbs that were thrown into the independent space of the Dantian fire were quickly refined into pure spiritual liquid. Then, under Yu Haoran's pill condensation and pill division technique, they became 9 pills that were only 1/3 the size of the 9 demonic gathering pill, but the color was pure white. Yu Haoran, what do you want to do? Thaling, who was also confused by Yu Haoran's inexplicable actions, couldn't help but ask. Thaling, after the pill tribulation, it is time to witness a miracle. Yu Haoran said with a mysterious smile on his face as he stopped condensing the pill division mark. Then, he mobilized his divine sense to inform the Emperor Qin and Ancestor Yuan, who were hidden in the void, to not intervene in the next pill snatching. The change in quality and the improvement in grade were exchanged for a more violent pill tribulation. Looking at the dark clouds that almost covered the entire Hungduan Mountains for hundreds of thousands of kilometers, Yu Haoran gradually put away the mysterious smile on his face. After forming a seal with his 10 fingers to put away the independent space of the Dantian fire, he turned back to Qin Lingfei and Tung Yunjie aside and did not intervene in the following matters. Senior Brother Tung, don't worry, I will definitely refine a 7 Lives mysterious gate pill for Ancestor Yuan. Seeing the worry in Tung Yunjie's eyes, Yu Haoran smiled and comforted him. Junior Brother Yu, our heavenly martial sect still has more than 10 sets of medicinal herbs for refining the 7 Lives mysterious gate pill. Seeing that Yu Haoran had misunderstood his thoughts, Tung Yunjie used the amount of medicinal herbs to show that he had always believed in Yu Haoran's alchemy ability. Then, pointing at the 9 black pills floating in the air, Tung Yunjie reminded him with a solemn expression. Junior Brother Yu, the evil aura emitted by these 9 black pills vaguely gives me a feeling of palpitations, as if a disaster is about to come. Senior Brother Tung, your feeling is right. Looking at Tung Yunjie in surprise, Yu Haoran did not expect his 6th sense to be so outstanding. Then, he put away the surprise in his heart and comforted him with a smile. After the pill tribulation, the disaster will come, but it has nothing to do with us. We just need to watch the show quietly. After hearing Yu Haoran's comfort, Tung Yunjie immediately realized something. He looked up at the surroundings of the Hungduan Mountains, and a hint of understanding flashed in his eyes. However, when he thought of the ancestor who was secretly guarding, he immediately asked in a low voice, Junior Brother Yu, have you informed His Majesty and Ancestor Yuan? that you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.